The underworld complained there were too many ghosts, so the judge kicked me back to the living world. I was reborn on the night I turned 3, just as the nanny was secretly carrying my biological sister away. In my past life, I rushed out to stop her, but she pushed me down the stairs, breaking my spine and confining me to a wheelchair for 20 years. I saved my sister back then, but when she grew up, she found me an embarrassment and personally pushed me off the rooftop. This time, I closed my eyes and pretended I saw nothing. With the Gu family's $100 billion media empire, having just me as the eldest sister is enough. The judge's kick was no gentle one. I suddenly opened my eyes to find myself lying on a large pink bed, my limbs as short and plump as lotus roots, clutching a stuffed rabbit in my hand, the familiar crystal chandelier, the familiar nursery, the familiar scent of lavender. This is the master bedroom of the Gu family's old house, from the crib next door. Faint rustling sounds could be heard. Someone was picking up my little sister. Good baby, mommy will take you away, take you to live a good life. It was the voice of the nanny, Zhou Xilian. My body instinctively wanted to turn over and sit up, but I clenched my teeth tightly and remained motionless. In my previous life, at this moment, 3-year-old me jumped off the bed and stopped her. She shoved me away, and the back of my head hit the stair railing. I tumbled from the second floor to the first, breaking 3 vertebrae in my spine. For the next 20 years, I spent my life in a wheelchair, and my younger sister, Gu Nianwan, whom I had desperately saved, never once thanked me. Instead, she was ashamed of having a sister in a wheelchair, feeling it embarrassed her in front of her friends. Please don't come to my birthday party, it's so embarrassing to have you in a wheelchair, you're the only useless one in the Gu family, just die already. On that final day, she asked me to meet her on the rooftop to talk. I thought she wanted to make up with me. Instead, she smiled and said, "Goodbye, sis," then pushed me from behind with both hands. I still remember that feeling of weightlessness, the wind rushing into my ears, the ground getting closer and closer. So this time, I chose to close my eyes. Zhou Xilian placed her own daughter into the crib, then wrapped my sister in a blanket. I heard the footsteps of her husband, Qin, coming from the direction of the window. "Are you done yet? You've been dawdling for ages. Keep your voice down," Zhou Xilian said anxiously. "The young lady is sleeping right next to us." Qin footsteps drew closer to me. I felt a rough hand waving in front of my face a couple of times. Fear made my whole body tense, but I controlled my breathing, keeping it steady and even. I cooperatively rolled over, smearing drool onto the pillow. I mumbled a line of dream talk. "Mom, I want to eat strawberry cake." Qin withdrew his hand, dead asleep, didn't wake up. I was just about to let out a sigh of relief. Zhou Xilian suddenly said something that made my hair stand on end. "This eldest daughter is very clever. What if she remembers what happened tonight someday? How about we take her away too, take her to the countryside, where no one can find her?" My fingers uncontrollably tightened their grip on the quilt. No way. Am I going to be ruined by this woman again in my second life? Fortunately, Qin impatiently grabbed her arm. "Are you out of your mind? If the little daughter is gone, we can say the nanny took her. But if the eldest daughter disappears too, the Gu family will turn the world upside down looking for her. If they trace it back to us, we'll be locked up for life. Take the child and go quickly, or it'll be daylight before you know it." Zhou Xilian hesitated for a few seconds, then bent down and kissed her daughter's forehead in the crib. "Stay here and enjoy a good life, my dear. I'm sorry, but this is for your own good." She held my biological sister in her arms and followed Qin as they climbed out the window and vanished into the night. The room fell silent. I opened my eyes, looked at the unfamiliar baby in the crib, and smiled silently. "From today onward, you are the second daughter of the Gu family, Gu Wanqing, and I am the only biological daughter of this family." Not long after, the door was pushed open. Mom and Dad walked in one after the other. "Why is the window open?" Mom frowned, quickly walked to the crib, glanced inside, and only relaxed after confirming that the baby was fine. She turned and saw me squinting, then immediately crouched down. "Nianan, why are you awake?" I rubbed my eyes, my voice soft and sweet. "There's wind. It's so cold." "Mommy, hold me." Mommy held me in her arms. "The butler said he heard movement in the room. Did you see anything?" Daddy walked to the window and checked around. "I had a dream." I leaned on Mommy's shoulder and gave a fake yawn. "I dreamed a big rabbit flew away from the window," and Mom and Dad exchanged a glance and both smiled. "This kid, even in dreams, has such a vivid imagination." Dad closed the window and latched it shut. "False alarm." It was probably just the wind that blew it open. They stayed with me for a while, then took the little sister from the crib to feed her. I lie on the soft, large bed, staring at the ceiling. In this life, I will not fall down the stairs again. I will not spend 20 years in a wheelchair again. I will not be pushed off the rooftop by anyone again. The Gu family media empire, with annual revenues exceeding 10 billion, has 3 listed companies under its umbrella. All of these are mine. The next morning, the servants were chattering away at the dining table. Sister Jo left overnight, saying there was an emergency back home. Her child is sick. She left in such a hurry that she didn't even settle her wages. Mother felt a bit regretful. Xiaolian was usually quite careful with her work. If she's gone, we'll just find someone else. Father, however, didn't mind much. Everyone has their own path. I sat in the high chair, quietly sipping my millet porridge while listening to the adults' conversation. As long as Zhou Xiaolian was smart enough to take my sister and disappear far away, never to appear again in this lifetime, that would be a happy ending for everyone. After breakfast, I walked to the nursery on my own, tiptoed, and leaned over the crib to look at my sister. She was sleeping soundly, her little face all scrunched up, not looking like me at all. A mom walked over and patted my head. Do you like your sister, Nianin? I do. I nodded seriously. She's so tiny, I want to protect her. Mom was touched by my words. She picked me up and gave me a kiss. Our Nianin is so thoughtful. I smiled obediently, already starting to scheme in my heart. This fake sister, I have to raise her well, raise her into my most convenient tool. From that day on, I began to play the role of the best sister in the world. My sister cried, and I was the first to run over to comfort her. My sister's bottle was empty, and I raised my hand to call for the nanny, the doll my parents bought for me. I didn't even unwrap it before stuffing it by my sister's bedside. A 3-year-old doing these things would be touching in any family, the butler privately told my parents. The young lady is already so caring toward her sister at this age. She will surely grow up to be a responsible person. My parents looked at me with increasing satisfaction in their eyes. When satisfaction reaches a certain level, it begins to turn into guilt. Nianin, you're only 3 years old, you don't have to give everything to your sister, my mother said, squatting down to straighten my dress. You are also our precious child, take what you want first, you don't always have to think of her. Dad also crouched down and patted my hair. You don't owe your sister anything, remember that. This sentence, this is exactly what I've been waiting for. With this foundation, even if I no longer give in to Gu Wanqing at every turn, my parents won't think I'm selfish. Instead, they'll feel that I've finally learned to love myself. Time quickly passed, and Gu Wanqing turned 2 years old. Although this little girl didn't understand anything, genes don't lie. Zhou Xiaolian had an ordinary appearance, and Qindahai was burly and rough. Their daughter naturally couldn't be too refined either. 2-year-old Gu Wanqing had sallow skin, her eyebrows and eyes scrunched together, and when she smiled, she looked just like the sweet potato-selling auntie at the village entrance in her younger days. I, on the other hand, perfectly inherited my parents' looks, big eyes, a high nose bridge, and skin as pale as a porcelain doll. When the two of us stood side by side, anyone could see the difference. The servants were the first to start whispering, Madam's skin is so fair, and the master has such thick eyebrows and big eyes, but how come the second young lady, Shu, you mustn't let Madam hear such talk. I heard all these comments clearly, but I wasn't in a hurry. Let the bullets fly a little longer. At the age of 3, Gu Wanqing officially began to reveal her true colors. That evening at dinner, Mom praised me for using chopsticks so well. Just that one sentence, Gu Wanqing immediately threw her bowl to the floor. Don't say sister is good, Wanqing is the best, she screamed in a shrill voice, her face smeared with tears and snot. Why do you only praise my sister and not me? Mother's face darkened. Father slammed the table directly. Gu Wanqing, when has your sister ever not given in to you? Is this how you treat her? I stood up at the right moment, walked over to Gu Wanqing, crouched down, and helped wipe her face. Don't cry, little sister, how about I give you my candy? This scene made my parents feel both heartbroken and comforted. Heartbroken because I was too sensible, and comforted for the same reason as for Gu Wanqing. From that day on, she was labeled as not as good as her sister. The more she made a fuss, the deeper this label became. When she wasn't making a fuss, everyone was still waiting for her to do so. As for me, I didn't have to do anything. I just needed to keep smiling, stay gentle, and maintain the image of the world's best sister. Compared to the unbearable suffering of being confined to a wheelchair in my previous life, this is far too easy. When when Gu Wanqing was 4 years old, her temper grew even worse, because the kindergarten teacher praised my drawing for being beautiful. She went home and tore up all my paintings. Ugly, so ugly, my drawings are the only ones that look good. The butler couldn't stand it and wanted to teach her a lesson. I stopped him. It's okay, sister can just draw another one. I want to let her be arrogant to the bone, arrogant beyond correction, so when the truth is revealed, no one will stand by her side, an unlikable fake heiress, and a perfect, flawless true lady. Everyone will choose me. When I was 5 years old, I did something while Gu Wanqing was taking her afternoon nap. I leaned close to her ear and whispered something. Sister, no matter what happens, you will always be the second young lady of the Gu family. No one can take that identity away from you. She opened her eyes drowsily and asked, "What are you saying, sister?" I smiled and helped tuck her in. "It's nothing, just remember this saying. Seeds should be sown." From a young age, time flew by, and I turned 7 and Gu Wanqing was 5. The whole family went to attend Grandpa's birthday banquet, and all the relatives came. At the banquet, my cousin from second uncle's family compared photos of me and Gu Wanqing. "Uncle, your eldest daughter looks exactly like you, but this younger daughter," he pointed at Gu Wanqing's photo, hesitating to speak further, "these features don't look like auntie's either." The whole table fell silent for 2 seconds. Gu Wanqing stood beside her mother, her little face flushed bright red. "You're talking nonsense. I am my parents' daughter." She grabbed the orange juice from the table and splashed it directly onto her cousin's face. "If you say that again, I'll hit you." The scene erupted in an uproar. Her cousin was drenched in orange juice, his shirt soaked through, his face alternating between pale and flushed. Mom angrily pulled Gu Wanqing aside to lecture her, while Dad quickly handed tissues to the cousin and apologized. I stood in the corner, silent and unnoticed. Grandfather stepped in to smooth things over. "I personally witnessed Wanqing's birth at the hospital. We're all family, so let's not make baseless assumptions." Once the commotion settled, Gu Wanqing huddled in a corner, sobbing quietly. I walked over, crouched down, and took her hand. "Sister, don't listen to their nonsense. You will always be the second young lady of the Gu family. Even if someone tries to take it, you must fight to hold on, understand?" She nodded, hugged my neck, and cried even harder. "Sister, you're the only one who treats me the best." I patted her back with a gentle expression. In my heart, I thought, that's how you should cry. Cry your heart out. After crying, you will become even more dependent on me. On the day you become so dependent that you can't leave, you will have no choice but to follow the path I have designed. After that birthday banquet, Gu Wanqing suddenly became much quieter. She no longer threw tantrums or smashed things at the drop of a hat. Instead, she began to imitate me. I study traditional Chinese painting, and she clamors to learn it too. I practice Go, and she pesters the teacher to teach her as well. But when it comes to genetics, no amount of effort can make up for it. My meticulously painted peonies were submitted by the teacher for a competition. While she couldn't even color the petals evenly, I can beat the amateur 3-dan player from the neighboring community in Go. While she can't even calculate captures clearly, the bigger the gap, the more frustrated she becomes, and the more she relies on me. "Sister, am I very stupid?" "You're not stupid, you're just still young. Take your time. Really, you have your own strengths. No need to compare everything with me." Hearing this would cheer her up for a while, until the next comparison struck, and so it goes, over and over again. At the age of 8, I won the gold medal in the citywide children's Chinese painting competition. At 9, I advanced to the amateur 4-dan rank in Go. These 2 achievements made my grandfather so happy that he hosted banquets for 3 consecutive days. Our Gu family has finally produced a promising talent who excels in both the arts and martial skills. As a reward, Grandpa made 2 decisions. First, he set up a trust account in my name, depositing 30 million into it. Second, he transferred a 200-square-meter riverside apartment in the city center to my name. At just 9 years old, the assets under my name already exceeded those of most adults. After learning about it, Gu Wanqing cried all night in her room. The next day, she came to me with red eyes and asked, "Sister, does Grandpa not like me?" "Of course not. Grandpa just thinks you're still young. When you grow up and achieve good grades, Grandpa will reward you too." She wiped away her tears. "Then I want to learn traditional Chinese painting too. I want to enter the competition too." I nodded with a smile. "Go ahead and learn. In the end, you'll realize that no matter how hard you try, you'll never catch up to me, because you're not a Gu family seed." 10 years old, I won another gold medal at the National Children's Calligraphy and Painting Competition and advanced to Amateur 5 Dan and Go this year. The servants' gossip shifted from private whispers to semi-public discussions. The second young lady has been studying traditional Chinese painting for 2 years, but she didn't even make it past the preliminary round in the last competition. Both the master and the mistress are top graduates from prestigious universities, and the eldest daughter excels in everything. But the second daughter, how did she end up like this? Could it be that she's really not their biological child? Every time she heard such remarks, Gu Wanqing would fly into a rage, but unlike when she was a child, she now only vented her anger on the servants. In front of her parents, she had learned to restrain herself. She even took the initiative to tell our parents, No, I'm not as good as my sister. In the future, let her manage the family company, and I'll just assist her. Instead, our parents were moved by her words. Wanqing has grown up and become sensible, listening from the side. I thought this fake sister of mine had at least some brains. Unfortunately, her cleverness was only enough to please me in front of me. What she didn't know was that no matter how well she performed, her situation wouldn't change, because her genes would eventually betray her. Summer vacation at the age of 11, the whole family went to the hospital for Grandpa's routine checkup. At the parking lot exit, Dad's car almost hit a little girl. The driver swerved sharply, and the car stopped just as it brushed against the girl's clothes. The little girl was about 10 years old, wearing a faded old t-shirt, with dust all over her knees. She seemed as if being chased by someone. Ignoring the pain, she scrambled to her feet and was about to run. Instinctively, I rolled down the car window to see if she was injured. She turned her head back. That face made my breath catch sharply. Big eyes, a high nose bridge, and a slightly pointed chin. At least an 80% match with my childhood photos. She is my biological sister. She is the baby that Zhou Xiulian took away. She has grown up. You look so much like me. My stomach suddenly tightened. Fortunately, she didn't recognize me. She just glanced at the license plate in panic and turned into the alley next to her. But my mother, in the back seat, had already pressed her face against the car window. Honey, did you see that little girl? Mom's voice sounded off. She looks so much like Nianin when she was little. Dad was calming the driver down and didn't notice. Mom was still looking toward the alley, muttering, "It looks like, really does." I immediately made a decision, clutching my stomach and bending over. Mom, my stomach hurts so much, really badly. Mom turned her head at once. What's wrong? Did you eat something bad this morning? I increased my efforts, tears welling up in my eyes. It hurts so much. Mom, I need to see a doctor. Mom grew anxious and told the driver to head straight to the emergency room. There was no more time to think about the girl in the alley. I spent the afternoon lying in the hospital, getting x-rays and undergoing tests, but of course, nothing was wrong. The doctor said it might be gastrointestinal spasms caused by nervousness, and I just needed to observe it. I pretended to be weak and lingered on the hospital bed, refusing to leave, dragging it out until dark before letting my parents take me home. On the way back, I frequently checked the rearview mirror, confirming that no one was following. But as soon as I got home, I couldn't sleep, staring at the ceiling and thinking all night, how could she be there? Didn't Zhou Xiulian take her away? She should be far away. Why was she covered in dust? What was she running from? These questions hit harder and harder. But I can't afford to be soft-hearted. In my past life, I was soft-hearted toward her, and what I got in return was a wheelchair and a rooftop. 2 o'clock in the morning, my door was gently pushed open. Gu Wanqing, wearing a nightgown with red-rimmed eyes, slipped into my bed. Sister, are you asleep? No, what's wrong? She buried her face in my pillow. Mom kept talking during dinner about how she met a little girl today who looked just like you. Her voice was trembling. Sis, do you think that girl might be our parents' real daughter? If she is, then what about me? A few seconds of silence passed. I put my arm around her shoulder. Wanqing, listen to me. No matter who emerges from the outside, you will always be the second young lady of the Gu family. That will never change, but you must strive to prove yourself and not give anyone an opportunity to take advantage. She suddenly looked up at me. Sister, you will help me, right? Of course. My tone was gentle. You are my sister. Who else would I help if not you? She pressed her face against my shoulder and said gloomily, Sister, you are the best person in the world to me. I patted her back, expressionless. Early the next morning, I did 2 things. First, I used the money from my trust account to contact a private investigation agency. Zhou Xiulian, female, 42 years old, worked as a nanny for the Gu family 11 years ago. I wrote the information on a piece of paper and handed it to the other person. I want all the whereabouts information about her and her daughter over the years. The other person had clearly never seen an 11-year-old child commission an investigation, but upon seeing the amount I wrote, all questions were swallowed back. For the second matter, I had someone retrieve the surveillance footage from the hospital parking lot that day. I need to know where that girl came from and where she went when she left. The investigation is progressing, life goes on as usual, but I can never fully relax again. 2 weeks later, the investigation yielded preliminary results. Zhou Xiulian lived in a small town 200 kilometers away from the city, making a living by doing housekeeping for others. Qin Dahai worked at a construction site. My biological younger sister went by the name Qin Xiaoyu. From the photo, she was as thin as a bamboo pole, but her features grew to resemble mine more and more. Zhou Xiulian registered her under Qin Dahai's household registration, claiming to outsiders that she was their biological daughter. However, the information gathered from the neighbors was not very positive. That family favors sons over daughters. They later had a son and didn't pay much attention to their eldest daughter. I heard she often doesn't get fed and is frequently beaten. When I read this line, my fingers tightened around the report, then they loosened again. Being soft-hearted is useless. How well she is doing is not my fault, it's Zhou Xiulian's fault, and now the most important thing is to make sure she doesn't show up near the Gu family again. The investigation also revealed that Qin Xiaoyu appeared in the hospital parking lot that day because she was working part-time at a nearby small restaurant, a 10-year-old child, washing dishes and carrying plates in the back kitchen to earn pocket money. That day, I ran out in a panic after being scolded by the shop owner. Pure coincidence. I felt a bit more at ease, but not completely. Coincidences, once they happen, can occur a second time. Just to be safe, I had the investigation agency continue monitoring the movements of Zhou Xiulian's family. Notify me immediately if anything unusual happens. The situation has temporarily calmed down, but another issue quietly surfaced. Mom hadn't forgotten what happened in the parking lot that day. One weekend afternoon, as I passed by the study, I overheard my parents talking inside. I've thought it over carefully. That girl really looks too much like Nianin when she was little. Mom's voice was soft, as if afraid someone might hear. It's just a coincidence, Dad said dismissively. But have you ever thought about how Wanqing doesn't look like us at all? Dad fell silent for a few seconds. What are you trying to say? I want to take Wanqing for a paternity test. My footsteps stopped outside the door. A paternity test. If the test is done, the truth will be exposed ahead of time. Exposing myself now would bring me no benefit. I'm not ready yet. Before the truth comes to light, I must make my position in the Gu family unshakable. Not only the affection of my parents, but also the trust of my grandfather, the recognition of the company's top management, and the absolute impression of the eldest daughter of the Gu family in the outside world. Only when I become indispensable to this family, even if the truth comes to light, no one will abandon me. I took 2 steps back, pretending I had just arrived, and pushed open the study door. Dad, Mom, what are you talking about? Mom's expression flickered briefly before quickly returning to normal. Nothing, just talking about your final exams. I walked in with a smile. Mom, don't worry, I've reviewed everything. After a pause, I added as if casually, by the way, Wanqing has been in a low mood these past couple of days. It seems someone said again that she doesn't look like you too. Mom's expression changed slightly. I continued, I told her that Grandpa witnessed her birth with his own eyes, so there's no way she could have been switched, but she's still very upset. Mom, how can people say such things? Although Wanqing's personality is different from mine, she's still your daughter too. My tone carried just the right amount of sympathy and just the right amount of defense. Mom looked at me, and her eyes suddenly welled up with tears. Nianin, you're really too sensible. She pulled me close and sighed. Forget it, let's not talk about this anymore. You're right, Wanqing is our daughter. Dad also chimed in. Don't overthink things, we're a perfectly good family. Why bother with a paternity test? The matter of the paternity test was quietly put to rest by me, just like that, but I know that this seed of doubt has already taken root in my mother's heart. Sooner or later, it will sprout. What I need to do is control when it sprouts. Time passes quickly. At the age of 12, I did something my parents never expected. I took the initiative to go to my father's company. Gu Media's headquarters is located in the tallest office building in the city center, occupying 4 entire floors. The receptionist was visibly surprised when she saw me being led in by my father's secretary. "Is this the young lady? She's so beautiful." I politely nodded and smiled at everyone, then walked into my father's office. "Dad, I'd like to learn about our family's company." My father looked up from behind a pile of documents, clearly surprised. "You're only 12 years old, but I am your eldest daughter." I pulled up a chair and sat across from him. "Sooner or later, I'll have to take over this company. It won't hurt to start learning a little earlier." Dad looked at me for a long moment, then suddenly smiled. "All right, then start by sitting in on meetings." From that day on, I went to the company every weekend. If I didn't understand something, I asked. If I didn't know how to do something, I learned. If I encountered words I didn't understand, I went home to look them up. By the age of 13, I was already able to understand basic financial statements. At 14, I delivered a speech in front of over 200 employees at the company's annual meeting, elegant and composed, with clear organization. Even several vice presidents praised me for having the demeanor of Gu Yanzhou in his youth. Upon hearing this, Grandpa was so excited he almost slammed the table during dinner. "Excellent, this is the true successor of our Gu family." He glanced at Gu Wanqing, then looked at me, saying nothing, but the contrast in his eyes was unmistakable to everyone. Gu Wanqing clenched her chopsticks tightly under the table. After finishing the meal and returning to her room, she did not come to find me, but through the wall, I could hear the sound of her throwing things. At 15, during the summer before starting high school, I received the latest report from the investigation agency, and its contents left me feeling uneasy. Zhou Xuelian has moved. She relocated from a small town over 200 kilometers away to the suburbs. Now, just 30 kilometers from us. Chen Xiaoyu also transferred schools and is now in the second year of junior high at an ordinary middle school in the suburbs. The distance is closing. This is not normal. Zhou Xuelian makes a living through housekeeping. The cost of living in the small town is much lower, so there's no reason for her to move to the more expensive suburbs, unless she has another purpose. I read the report 3 times and finally locked it away in the secret compartment of my desk. At the same time, I added an instruction to the investigation agency: report all her movements every half day. Gu Wanqing had also been acting strangely during this time. She began frequently trying to please my mother, helping with household chores, proactively serving tea and water, and her words were as sweet as honey. "Mom, you look so beautiful today." "Mom, let me massage your legs." "Mom, I love you." Anything unusual is suspicious. I didn't ask her directly, but instead went through her phone, found nothing. Maybe it's just teenage insecurity acting up. After all, those comments about not looking alike never stopped, and she got scared. I temporarily pulled my attention back to focus on preparing for the high school entrance exam. My goal was to get into the top high school in the city, and I had to enter as the top scorer. Every step I took had to be flawless. Then everything was thrown into chaos. That morning, my parents' car had just pulled up in front of the house. Gu Wanqing and I were about to get in the car to go to school. Suddenly, a figure rushed out from behind the bushes. It was a thin, small girl wearing a pilled school uniform, with messy hair and a red mark on her face that hadn't faded yet. She threw herself directly onto the hood of the car, pressing both hands firmly against the engine cover. Then she opened her mouth and shouted with all her might, "Gu Wanqing is a fake. She's not your biological daughter at all." I am your daughter." The whole family froze in place. I sat in the back seat, watching her face through the windshield. That face was exactly the same as it had been in the parking lot 4 years ago, only thinner, with more prominent cheekbones. The red mark on her face looked like it had been struck by someone. My own sister, Chen Xiaoyu, has come looking for me, and Gu Wanqing, standing beside me, had already turned as pale as a ghost. Dad was the first to get out of the car. He walked quickly over to the girl, frowning as he sized her up. "Who are you? Who sent you here?" Chen Xiaoyu stood in front of the car, her legs trembling, but her eyes were stubborn. "My name is Chen Xiaoyu. But my surname isn't Chen, it's Gu. 15 years ago, your family's nanny, Zhou Xuelian, swapped me out and placed her own daughter in your home." She pointed at Gu Wanqing, who was still sitting motionless in the car. "She is the nanny's daughter." Mom also got out of the car, her expression complicated. She stared at Chen Xiaoyu's face for a full 10 seconds, then she turned her head and glanced at me. I understood that look. She was comparing the similarities between this girl and me. The conclusion is obvious. I also got out of the car, but instead of walking to the front, I stood behind my mother, holding Gu Wanqing's hand. Gu Wanqing's hand was as cold as iron. Sister, her lips were trembling. I squeezed her hand, signaling her not to speak. Dad's attitude was cold. Little girl, I don't know who sent you here, but the affairs of our Gu family are not something just anyone can meddle in. Do you have any evidence for what you're saying? Qin Xiaoyu clearly didn't expect to be questioned so directly. She was taken aback for a moment, then pulled a crumpled piece of paper from her pants pocket. This is a letter from my mom, no, from Zhou Xiulian, to Qin Dahai. It explains how she stole your biological daughter and replaced her with her own. She told me herself when she was drunk, and I stole this letter from her drawer. Dad took the paper and quickly glanced over it. Mom leaned in to look as well. Both of their expressions changed dramatically within seconds, and I stood behind, calmly observing everything. I had long known this day would come. I just didn't expect it to come so quickly, nor did I expect her to bring evidence. Mom's hands began to tremble. She lifted her head, looked at Qin Xiaoyu's face, then turned to glance at Gu Wanqing in the car. This can't be, honey, you're saying this can't be, right? Dad didn't answer, folding the letter and putting it in his pocket. Let's talk inside. His tone had lost its earlier coldness, replaced by a suppressed tension. Qin Xiaoyu was led into the Gu family's living room. The moment she walked through the door, the way she looked around reminded me of a stray cat entering a warm room for the first time, shrinking back, nervous, yet greedily eyeing every single thing. She was looking at this home that should have been hers. I pulled Gu Wanqing to sit on the sofa and said softly, "Don't be afraid, I'm here." Gu Wanqing nodded, but her whole body seemed drained of all strength. Dad had the butler pour a glass of water and place it in front of Qin Xiaoyu. Start from the beginning. Qin Xiaoyu held her water cup and talked about her life over the years. Before the age of 3, Zhou Xiulian treated her fairly well. Later, Qin Dahai gambled and fell into debt, leaving the family so poor they could barely make ends meet. Zhou Xiulian then gave birth to a son, with a biological son of her own. Qin Xiaoyu became an extra burden, eating leftovers, wearing old clothes, and being beaten were everyday occurrences. She would hit me when she drank too much, cursing me as a worthless burden while she did it. Once, she drank heavily and suddenly hugged me, crying, saying, "You were meant for a life of wealth and fortune, but I ruined it for you." I pressed her for an explanation, and she told me everything. She said I was originally the youngest daughter of the Gu family, and she was the one who swapped me out. At this point, Qin Xiaoyu's tears began to fall. I didn't believe it. I thought she was lying to me. Later, when she went out, I found that letter hidden at the very bottom of her cabinet. The date, name, and address on the letter all matched up perfectly. Mom had already covered her mouth, tears streaming down continuously. Dad's face was tightly drawn, not saying a word. I listened quietly from the side, observing Gu Wanqing out of the corner of my eye. Her complexion shifted from pale to ashen, then from ashen to flushed, finally settling on an indescribable dull gray. She knew, or rather, she had always vaguely known, just never dared to confirm it, and now, it was truly laid out before her. The living room remained silent for a long time. In the end, it was Dad who spoke first. "This matter must be verified," he said in a low voice. "We'll do a paternity test, and everything will be based on the results." He looked at Qin Xiaoyu. "Until the results come out, you'll stay here for now." Then he turned to Gu Wanqing. "You too, don't overthink it." Gu Wanqing didn't say a word, just stood up and headed upstairs. After taking 2 steps, she suddenly turned back to look at me. In that gaze, there was fear, anger, resentment, and something else I recognized all too well, a plea for help. She was asking me for help. I nodded at her. Only then did she turn and go upstairs. After everyone had dispersed, I sat alone in the living room. On the coffee table in front of me was still the water Qin Xiaoyu hadn't finished drinking. This is at least 3 years earlier than I had anticipated, but it's not entirely without preparation. The results of the paternity test were unsurprising. Gu Wanqing is not a blood relative of the Gu family. Qin Xiaoyu is actually the biological second daughter of the Gu family. On the day this conclusion came to light, Mother cried in her room all day long. Father locked himself in the study, smoking one cigarette after another. Grandfather rushed to the house on his cane, so angry that he smashed a teacup on the floor. "Bastard, how dare a nanny do this to our Gu family? Call the police immediately. Arrest that Zhou Xiulian," the butler cautiously said. "Old master, we've already investigated. Zhou Xiulian and Qin Dahai ran away a month ago. Their phones are turned off, and their house is empty." Grandpa's hands trembled. and he almost lost his balance. I steadied him. Grandpa, don't rush, sit down and tell me slowly. Grandpa looked at me, his eyes suddenly reddening. Nyanin, thank goodness you're still here, thank goodness that Nanny back then didn't take you away. 2. I obediently poured him a cup of hot tea. Yes, fortunately not. After the appraisal results were announced, the Gu family faced an awkward situation. Gu Wanqing, the daughter they had raised for 15 years, was not their biological child. Qin Xiaoyu, their biological daughter, had suffered for 15 years outside. What should they do? Their parents' first reaction was to bring Qin Xiaoyu back. She is our own flesh and blood, and we must compensate her no matter what. Her mother held Qin Xiaoyu tightly, both of them crying uncontrollably. Little fish, Mom is sorry, I've made you suffer. Qin Xiaoyu was held in her mother's arms, crying so hard her whole body trembled. Mom, that cry of Mom was heart-wrenching. I stood by watching this scene, my expression perfectly tinged with heartache, but deep down, I knew very well that while the sentiment was touching, the real battle was yet to come, because the immediate question was, what about Gu Wanqing? My parents couldn't just kick out a child they had raised for 15 years, but at the same time, Qin Xiaoyu's arrival is bound to take away the resources that originally belonged to Gu Wanqing. 2 sisters, under the same roof, one is a blood relative but a stranger. The other is an imposter but intimate. This drama is getting interesting. Gu Wanqing was arranged to continue living temporarily at the Gu family home. You grew up in this family, so this is still your home, her father said to her, but his tone lacked the natural ease it once had. Gu Wanqing lowered her head. Thank you, Dad, thank you, Uncle. She didn't know how to address him anymore. Calling him Dad makes it seem like I'm overstaying my welcome. Calling him Uncle feels too distant. This last sentence got stuck in the middle, making everyone feel awkward. Mom forced a smile and said, don't call him Uncle, just call him Dad. After raising you for so many years, you're practically our half-daughter. When the words half came out of my mother's mouth, I saw Gu Wanqing's shoulders tremble. It was very slight, but I saw it. From a whole daughter to half, all it took was one test report. Qin Xiaoyu officially moved into the Gu family. Her mother arranged a new room for her, added new clothes and furniture, and dressed her up from head to toe. After being cleaned up and dressed in nice clothes, Qin Xiaoyu's appearance suddenly stood out. Her facial features were exactly like mine, only thinner and smaller, with an added touch of stubbornness. The whole family was sighing in admiration. The second young lady looks so much like the eldest young lady, truly worthy of being biological sisters. With each word she heard, Gu Wanqing's face grew paler. She has lived in this house for 15 years. And no one has ever said she resembles her mother or father. Yet, Qin Xiaoyu had only been in the house for 3 days when everyone started saying, she really looks like them. The cruelty of genetics surpasses any language. Qin Xiaoyu behaved very well in the first few days, timid, speaking softly, and afraid to step heavily when walking, but I noticed a detail: the way she looked at Gu Wanqing. It wasn't hostility, nor was it sympathy, it is a kind of scrutiny. As if weighing just how much this person, who has occupied their place for 15 years, truly matters. On the 4th evening, during a family dinner, things began to heat up. Mom picked up a piece of spare ribs and placed it in Qin Xiaoyu's bowl. Little fish, eat more, you're too thin. Qin Xiaoyu took it and softly said thank you. Gu Wanqing sat across, her chopsticks stirring the rice in her bowl, not looking up. Mom gave Gu Wanqing another piece. Wanqing, you eat too. Gu Wanqing glanced at the ribs in the bowl and suddenly put down her chopsticks. I can't eat anymore. She stood up, wanting to leave. Dad frowned. Sit down and finish your meal. Gu Wanqing stood still, her back to the table, not turning around. Why should I still sit here? Her voice was soft, but each word was hard and unyielding. You already have your own daughter now. What's the point of keeping me around? Her mother quickly stood up. Wanqing, don't be like this. What about me? Gu Wanqing suddenly turned around, tears already streaming down her face. The way you look at her is completely different from how you look at me. For 15 years, you've never looked at me like that, because I'm not your biological child, right? You've known it in your hearts all along. Just never said it out loud. The dining table was shrouded in a deathly silence. Qin Xiaoyu kept her head down, eating the ribs bite by bite, pretending she hadn't heard anything. But there was a very subtle curve at the corner of her mouth. I saw it. This detail instantly adjusted my judgment of Qin Xiaoyu. She is not a docile little white rabbit. She is waiting for Gu Wanqing to break down, even enjoying it. I'm all too familiar with that expression, because I've had it too, that evening's dinner. Ended on a sour note, Mom went to comfort Gu Wanqing. Dad smoked in the living room, and Chen Xiaoyu retreated to her own room. I stood in the hallway, listening to the different sounds coming from the rooms on either side. On one side was Gu Wanqing's suppressed sobbing, on the other side was Chen Xiaoyu's soft humming. She was humming a tune. On the night when Gu Wanqing was at her most broken, she hummed a song in her room. I pushed open Chen Xiaoyu's door. She was leaning against the headboard, flipping through the new magazine her mother had bought for her. And she didn't seem surprised to see me come in. "Sister," she said, her tone a bit livelier than during the day. I sat down by her bedside. "You did that on purpose during dinner today." Chen Xiaoyu's hand flipping through the magazine paused for a second. Then she looked up at me and smiled. That smile confirmed one thing for me: my own little sister was far more complicated than I had anticipated. "Sister, I don't know what you're talking about." Her voice was innocent and naive. "I was just eating." She couldn't stand it and got up on her own. I didn't expose her, just said, "You just got here. Take your time, no need to rush." She tilted her head. "Sister is reminding me. I'm telling you, in this house, the rules are set by me." My tone was light, but left no room for negotiation. Chen Xiaoyu looked at me and put away her smile. After a few seconds of silence, she lowered her head again and flipped through the magazine. "Got it, sis." I stood up and walked to the door, glancing back at her. She didn't look up, but her fingers flipping through the magazine noticeably tightened. Back in my own room, I sat at the desk and opened the locked drawer. Inside were all the materials I had accumulated over the years: Zhou Shilian's investigation file, Chen Xiaoyu's growth records, Gu Wanqing's behavioral analysis, and my judgments on every key figure in the Gu family. Now, there's a new variable on the chessboard, and this variable is more difficult to deal with than I anticipated. Chen Xiaoyu is not just a poor girl who was abducted. She has a purpose, she has methods, and she might even be harder to control than Gu Wanqing. But it's okay, this game of chess has been set up from the moment I was reborn. No matter how many opponents emerge, in the end, the one sitting on this side of the board can only be me. Over the next week, the Gu family appeared calm on the surface. Parents treated Chen Xiaoyu and Gu Wanqing equally, at least on the surface, but the details couldn't be hidden. Mom bought 2 more pieces of clothing for Chen Xiaoyu than for Gu Wanqing. Dad accompanied Chen Xiaoyu to the school to handle the transfer procedures, personally handling everything from start to finish. When Gu Wanqing transferred schools, it was the driver who took her. All these differences were noticed by Gu Wanqing. She stopped making a fuss and became unusually quiet to an abnormal degree. Every morning, I go downstairs on time for breakfast and greet everyone with a smile first. I take the initiative to help Mom clear the dishes and pour tea for Dad. My words are as sweet as if I were a different person. "Mom, today's dishes are so delicious." "Dad, you've worked hard. Let me get your slippers for you." She is using flattery to secure her position. This strategy isn't particularly clever, but it works after all. Her parents have raised her for 15 years. It's not something that can be easily discarded. Meanwhile, Chen Xiaoyu was also actively integrating into this family. Her approach was much more skillful than Gu Wanqing's. She didn't try to please or adopt a submissive attitude. Instead, she appropriately displayed her pitifulness and excellence. During meals, she wouldn't take the initiative to serve herself food. When her mother asked what she wanted to eat, she would whisper, "Anything is fine." I often went without meals before, so I'm already very happy to have plain rice now. As soon as these words were spoken, her mother's tears fell on the spot. After the school transfer procedures were completed, the homeroom teacher called to praise her. "Mr. Gu, your second daughter has a solid foundation. Although her previous school had poor conditions, she worked very hard and her grades are among the top in the class." After Dad hung up the phone, he brought up the matter at the dinner table. Xiaoyu's homeroom teacher said her grades are quite good, and with a bit more effort, she could aim for a key high school. Mom immediately chimed in. "Should we hire a tutor then? Let's wait and see. This child is willing to study on her own." No one paid any attention to Gu Wanqing throughout the entire process, and Gu Wanqing's latest monthly exam results placed her 10th from the bottom in the class. The contrast didn't need to be spoken aloud by anyone. It was right there, like an invisible knife. I sat beside them eating, taking it all in. A silent war was unfolding between the two sisters, and for now, I was the prize they were both vying for. Because in this family, our parents' attitudes could be swayed, and Grandpa's preferences could be changed. but only I am certain I am the undisputed eldest daughter of the Gu family, biological, outstanding, and unshakable. Whoever wins me over gains an extra layer of security. So in the days that followed, Gu Wanqing and Chen Xiaoyu coincidentally did the same thing. They all came to me. Gu Wanqing came in the evening. Sister, please help me, I don't want to be driven out. She crouched by my bedside, tugging at my sleeve. Just like when we were children, you said it yourself, no matter what happens, I will always be the second young lady of the Gu family. You won't go back on your word, right? I patted her head. My word is my bond. But you have to strive for yourself too, you can't just rely on me. She nodded vigorously. I will study hard, I will do better than her. I didn't say anything better than her. With what? I can't compete in studies, I can't compete in looks. And I can't even compete in blood ties. Your only bargaining chip is the 15 years of feelings, and this chip is depreciating. Chen Xiaoyu came at noon the next day. She bumped into me in the garden, sitting on the swing, gazing at the sky, and said in a casual tone, Sister, I won't compete with you. I sat on the stone bench nearby, reading a book. Compete for what? For this family, for our parents' love, for the things of the Gu family. She turned to look at me. I've had nothing since I was little. Now that I can recognize my parents and have a complete family, that's enough for me. I'm not greedy. These words were spoken flawlessly. If I were an ordinary older sister, I would probably be moved, but I'm not. You're absolutely right. I closed the book. This house is indeed big enough to accommodate everyone. She smiled, a clean and harmless smile, but I noticed her gaze swept over the cover of the book the moment I closed it. It was an introductory book on business management. She is gathering information. She wants to know what I am learning, what I care about, and what matters to me. This younger sister is quite skilled. I have mentally assigned her a level. She requires serious attention. The situation is starting to get interesting. On the surface, the three sisters are getting along harmoniously. Behind the scenes, each is calculating their own gains and losses, and the real test arrived in the third week. Grandpa is going to celebrate his 70th birthday. All relatives of the Gu family will be present. This will be the first time Chen Xiaoyu appears before everyone as the biological second daughter of the Gu family. It will also be the first time Gu Wanqing faces the scrutiny of the entire family as the fake heiress. The night the news broke, Gu Wanqing stayed in my room until 1 in the morning. Sis, I don't want to go. Everyone in the family will know I'm not their biological child. What will they think of me? Those relatives who always said I didn't look like mom and dad are going to have a field day. Her emotions were on the verge of collapse. I held her hand. You must go. Hiding will only make others think you have a guilty conscience. Go on, lift your head, straighten your back, let them know you weren't raised to be scared. She looked at me like a drowning person clutching at a floating log. Big sister, you'll stand by my side, right? You're the little sister I raised. I said, that won't change. The birthday banquet was held at the Gu family's old mansion. With over 100 relatives in attendance, I wore a champagne-colored gown, and my mother said I looked like someone who had stepped out of a painting. Gu Wanqing wore a light blue dress with light makeup, but her overall demeanor seemed somewhat uneasy. Chen Xiaoyu wore a pink dress her mother had just bought for her, looking neat and clean as she stood between her parents, being formally introduced to all the relatives. This is our second daughter. She was away from us for some time due to certain reasons, but now she's back. Father's wording was clever. He didn't mention the switch, nor did he bring up the nanny, only referring to certain reasons. But the relatives aren't fools. The news had already spread far and wide. Everyone's gaze shifted back and forth between Chen Xiaoyu and Gu Wanqing. Then, as if by prior agreement, they all landed on me, because I was the only certain variable. Nianan is getting more and more beautiful, standing next to Xiaoyu. It's clear at a glance that your sisters. This sentence was spoken by second aunt, her voice neither too loud nor too soft, just enough for everyone at the table to hear. Gu Wanqing, sitting next to me, stiffened. I immediately took over the conversation. Second aunt, Wanqing's dress today is also very beautiful. Don't you think it complements her skin tone well? Second aunt gave an awkward smile and said nothing more, but once the chatterbox was opened, it couldn't be stopped. Third uncle walked over with a wine glass in hand, looking at Chen Xiaoyu and clicking his tongue in admiration. Big brother, this girl looks exactly like you did when you were young. She's definitely your own flesh and blood. After saying that, he even took a serious look at Gu Wanqing. Well then, how will things be arranged from now on? Mom's expression changed. Dad cut in. Today is Grandpa's birthday banquet. let's not talk about these things. Third uncle chuckled and didn't press further, but that meaningful look in his eyes was clear to everyone. The 6 words how to arrange things in the future hung over Gu Wanqing's head like a knife. Halfway through the banquet, Gu Wanqing went to the restroom and didn't return for a long time. I went to look for her, pushing open the door. I found her crouched in a corner, her face buried between her knees. She didn't cry out loud, but her shoulders were trembling. Come out. She didn't move. Gu Wanqing, come out. My tone hardened a bit. She slowly raised her head, her face streaked with tears. Sister, they're all laughing at me. Laughing at you about what? What did you do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong, but my very existence is a joke. I crouched down to meet her eye level. You go out now, return to your seat, eat your meal, drink your water, and smile at everyone who speaks to you. If you stay crouched in the bathroom all night, tomorrow the entire Gu family will spread the word that the fake heiress cried and didn't dare come out at Grandpa's birthday banquet. You choose. She froze for a few seconds, then she stood up and washed her face with cold water. Thank you, sister. I took her back to the banquet hall. As soon as I entered the door, I saw Chen Xiaoyu standing next to Grandpa, smiling as she served him food. Grandpa, this fish head and tofu soup is very fresh. You should try it. Grandpa was so happy he couldn't stop smiling. Good child, so thoughtful. The relatives nearby chimed in. This girl is so considerate. Gu Wanqing's steps noticeably faltered for a moment. I pulled her straight to our seats and sat down, picking up my juice glass to clink against hers. Have a drink. The birthday banquet is still long, she sniffled, forcing a faint smile. I glanced at Chen Xiaoyu, who was performing filial piety by her grandfather's side. She did it very well. Every step was just right, serving food to her grandfather, actively pouring tea for the elders, and answering questions in a well-behaved and appropriate manner. In contrast, Gu Wanqing's silence and reddened eyes appeared particularly glaring. This is the cleverness of Chen Xiaoyu. She doesn't need to attack Gu Wanqing, she just needs to be herself, and the comparison will naturally crush Gu Wanqing. But she forgot one thing, the person in this family who is best at planning is not her. Towards the end of the birthday banquet, Grandpa asked his 3 granddaughters to come forward and propose a toast. I stood in the middle, with Chen Xiaoyu on my left and Gu Wanqing on my right. The 3 of us each held a glass of wine and stood before Grandpa. The relatives' gazes swept over like spotlights. I cleared my throat and spoke first. Grandfather, may your fortune be as vast as the eastern sea, and your longevity as enduring as the southern mountains. Then I turned to Chen Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu, it's your turn to toast. Chen Xiaoyu raised her glass. Grandpa, even though I've just returned, I will take good care of you from now on. Grandpa nodded with a smile. Finally, it was Gu Wanqing's turn. She held her glass, her fingers trembling slightly. The entire room fell silent, everyone watching her, waiting to see how she would address them, waiting to see her make a fool of herself. I glanced at her and gave a slight nod. Gu Wanqing gritted her teeth and raised her wine glass. Grandpa, whether I'm your biological granddaughter or not, you've loved me for 15 years. I'll remember this kindness for the rest of my life. Her voice was a bit hoarse, but it didn't tremble. I respect you. The entire room fell silent for 2 seconds, then Grandpa put down his chopsticks and sighed. Good child. He reached out and patted Gu Wanqing's head. After raising you for 15 years, you are my granddaughter. That doesn't need to change. Several relatives who had been waiting to see some drama looked somewhat embarrassed. Mom quietly wiped the corner of her eye from behind, standing behind Gu Wanqing. She couldn't see the slight curve of my lips. These words were what I had taught her to say the night before, word by word, including when to pause, when to look into Grandpa's eyes, and when to raise the glass. Everything was rehearsed. Gu Wanqing thought she had fought a beautiful comeback battle. She didn't know, she was just following the script I had written. After the birthday banquet, Gu Wanqing's position at home was temporarily secured. Grandfather's statement, after raising her for 15 years, she is my granddaughter, became her protective talisman. Anyone who wanted to bring up her identity again had to carefully consider the old man's stance. However, Chen Xiaoyu's presence was also steadily growing. Her monthly exam results are out, and she ranked 3rd in the class. Moreover, she transferred from an ordinary suburban middle school, starting from a lower baseline than everyone else in the class, and her progress has been astonishing. The homeroom teacher specifically mentioned her name during the parent-teacher conference. Student Gu Xiaoyu is extremely diligent. If she maintains this momentum, getting into a key high school won't be a problem. After Mom came back, she told Dad about it. and the pride on her face was almost impossible to hide. This child is really making us proud. If she had been with us since she was little, who knows how outstanding she would be. Gu Wanqing happened to pass by the living room and overheard this. Her footsteps paused for half a second, then she quickened her pace and went upstairs. She didn't come to see me that night, but the next morning. Her eyes were swollen. A month later, the midterm exam results were announced. Qin Xiaoyu ranked first in the class, Gu Wanqing ranked 8th from the bottom in her class. The gap was laid out on the dining table, leaving no room for concealment. Dad looked at the two report cards, said nothing, placed them side by side on the table, and remained silent for quite a while. Mom praised Qin Xiaoyu a few times, then turned to Gu Wanqing. Wanqing, you should also put in more effort. The tone was gentle, but the word also was jarring. Also means you are the one being compared. Also means you are the one who needs to catch up. Gu Wanqing smiled and said, okay, Mom. That smile was dry, like paper glued on. After finishing the meal, she found me. Sister, no matter how hard I try, I can't surpass her in exams. You don't need to surpass her. What do I need then? You need to find her weaknesses beyond the exams. Gu Wanqing looked at me, a flicker of something in her eyes. You I mean, a girl from the countryside suddenly moves into a mansion, wears designer clothes, and is treated like royalty by everyone. Do you really think she doesn't have any flaws at all? Gu Wanqing's expression slowly changed, from grievance to deep thought. Sister, are you helping me? I'm helping you understand the situation. I didn't say anything more. Giving her a direction is enough. Let her figure out the rest on her own. If she can successfully catch Qin Xiaoyu's weakness, then I'll have another card up my sleeve. If she messes it up, I won't lose anything either way. I'm not the one who will be stepping into the fray. Another 2 weeks passed. Gu Wanqing indeed took action. She somehow obtained Qin Xiaoyu's school records from before the transfer and discovered that Qin Xiaoyu had a disciplinary record at the previous school. The reason was physical altercation with classmates. In simpler terms, it was a fight. Gu Wanqing told her mother about this. I'm not trying to speak ill of Xiaoyu, but I think you should know that she used to hit people at school. Who knows what the reason was? What if she has a bad temper and ends up hitting someone at home too? She spoke cautiously, her tone wrapped in the packaging of I'm doing this for the good of the family. Mom indeed became alert and talked to Qin Xiaoyu that very night. Xiaoyu, Mom heard that you used to hit classmates at school. What happened? Qin Xiaoyu was doing her homework and stopped the pen in her hand. Upon hearing this, she looked up, glanced at her mom, and then looked at Gu Wanqing standing behind her. She understood everything. Some say I was sold by human traffickers, that I'm not Zhou Shilian's biological child. I tried to explain to him, but he wouldn't listen and even mocked me in front of the whole class, so I took action. She spoke very calmly, without any grievance or urgency to explain, as if telling someone else's story. After listening, Mom remained silent for a long time. Then she said, Mom understands you. If anyone bullies you again in the future, tell Mom and Dad, and we'll stand up for you. This outcome was clearly not what Gu Wanqing had anticipated. She had thought this incident would create a rift between her parents and Qin Xiaoyu. Instead, it made her mother feel even more sympathy for her. From a troubled girl with a history of violence, to a poor child who had been bullied since childhood and could only protect herself. Perfect flip. Gu Wanqing's first attack ended in a crushing defeat. After this incident, Qin Xiaoyu did something that truly put me on alert. She took the initiative to come and find me. Sister, I know it was Wanqing who told Mom. I turned a page of my book. What do you want? I don't want anything. She sat in the chair across from my desk, her hands folded on her knees. I just want to tell you one thing. What is it? I won't actively target Wanqing, but if she keeps targeting me, I won't just take it. Her tone was neither humble nor arrogant, without any hint of threat, yet every word stood firm. Sister should understand better than anyone who the real insider is in this family. That statement made me shift my gaze from the book to her face. What is she implying? What does she know? We locked eyes for a few seconds. Her gaze was clear, but too clear for a 15-year-old girl. Are you done talking? Done. Then go to your homework. She stood up and glanced back when she reached the door. Sister, I'm really glad to have met you. The door closed. I stared at the closed door, my fingers unconsciously tracing circles on the page. Qin Xiaoyu's words just now carried a lot of information. First, she was telling me she's not to be messed with. The second, she was testing the relationship between me and Gu Wanqing. Third, the phrase "who is truly one of us" was a depth charge. She was trying to win me over. She's trying to win me over with blood ties. She and I are biological sisters. She and I are the real insiders. From this perspective, I have to say it's a very precise choice. If it were someone else, they might have been moved. Unfortunately, what she didn't know was that I had already experienced her true ally in my previous life. The outcome was my life. Blood ties are worthless in the face of interests. The lessons from my past life were already enough. In this life, I only trust myself. Another month passed. Something no one had anticipated happened. Zhou Xiulian appeared. She didn't come on her own. She was found. The legal team hired by Dad located her in a rented room in a neighboring province. Qindahai had fled, and his whereabouts were unknown. Zhou Xiulian stayed alone in the rental house, so thin that she looked almost unrecognizable, her whole person in a daze. When she was brought to the Gu family, she knelt on the living room floor as soon as she entered the door. Mr. Gu, Mrs. Gu, I am the one who wronged you. I did something immoral, she cried and kowtowed, her forehead hitting the marble floor. With loud thuds, I shouldn't have swapped your child, I was blinded by greed, I'm not human. Dad sat on the sofa, his face expressionless. Mom stood nearby, clenching her fists tightly. Tell us, why did you do it back then? Dad's voice was very low. Zhou Xiulian cried until she was out of breath. Qindahai owed a loan shark and forced me to find a way to get money. I was at my wit's end, so he said we could swap our own daughter in, and then we wouldn't have to worry anymore. I agreed in a moment of desperation, but after the swap, I regretted it every day and couldn't sleep at night, but it was already done, and I didn't dare to speak up. She lay on the ground, trembling all over like a sieve. A circle of people stood in the living room, the butler, the servants, and the grandfather who had rushed over upon hearing the news. Everyone stared at Zhou Xiulian kneeling on the floor, their gazes as if looking at a rat crossing the street. Grandfather leaned on his cane, angrily tapping the floor 3 times in a row. What a Zhou Xiulian, what a Qindahai, you've ruined my granddaughter's life for 15 years, and you think a simple apology can settle it? Zhou Xiulian shrank back in fear, repeatedly saying, Grandfather, you can hit me or scold me all you want, I'll do anything to atone for my sins. I stood at the corner of the stairs, seeing everything clearly. Chen Xiaoyu stood at the other end of the living room, staring at Zhou Xiulian kneeling on the floor, her face expressionless. She looked at the mother who had raised her for 15 years as if she were a stranger, and Gu Wanqing did not appear. She locked herself in the room, because the woman kneeling on the ground was her biological mother. This scene was witnessed by everyone. Gu Wanqing's absence itself was a statement. Not showing up is because I don't know which side to stand on. I acknowledge my biological mother. That would mean admitting I'm the daughter of a nanny, not acknowledge her. The mother who raised me for 15 years is kneeling on the ground, kowtowing. No matter what I choose, it's a dead end. I silently gave her a score in my mind. Not smart enough. The best choice would have been to step out, stand by my parents' side, and firmly draw a clear line with Zhou Xiulian. Even if it was just an act, it had to be done. But she didn't even dare to pretend. This is the gap at the root. Zhou Xiulian knelt in the living room for over half an hour. In the end, Dad had the lawyer take her away. Leave the legal matters to the lawyer. Go back first and wait for the notice. When Zhou Xiulian was being dragged out, she passed by Chen Xiaoyu. She suddenly grabbed Chen Xiaoyu's hand. Xiaoyu, Mom is sorry for you. Chen Xiaoyu shook off her hand abruptly. You don't deserve to call me Xiaoyu. The sound wasn't loud, but it echoed throughout the entire living room. Zhou Xiulian's hand froze in midair, as if she had been slapped in the face. The servants exchanged glances, and a few of the older maids had reddened eyes. That unworthy was said perfectly. A child sold by her own mother, who endured hardship and suffering for 15 years, has finally returned home, facing the person who sold her. A single "you don't deserve it" is enough to win the support of all onlookers. Chen Xiaoyu, you're too good at this. I watched her back as she walked up the stairs. This little sister, every step she takes lands in the most precise position. If she were just a poor girl who had been abducted, I wouldn't need to be on guard at all, but she is not. She has judgment, a sense of propriety, ambition, and the means to achieve it. The only problem is that her current goal is not yet clear enough. What does she really want? Just a home, a sense of family, or something more? The answer will be revealed in a week. That day on my way home from school, I passed by my father's study, the door slightly ajar. Chen Xiaoyu's voice came from inside. Dad, I have an unreasonable request, you said. I want to go to the company to learn, just like my sister. My footsteps halted outside the door. I know I don't understand anything, but I want to learn. my sister started going to the company when she was 12, and I don't want to fall too far behind her. In the future, this family will need someone to hold it together. It's too hard for my sister to manage alone, and I want to help share the burden." Father remained silent for a long while. "All right, come over with Nyanin this weekend." "Thank you, Dad." I heard the sound of a chair moving and turned to leave the hallway. So her goal is not just a home, she wants the position at Goo Media, to be on equal footing with me, even replace me, a girl from the suburbs, having entered the Goo family for less than 3 months, has already extended her reach into the company. The speed at which this happened forced me to reassess her threat level, from needs to be taken seriously, upgraded to must be suppressed as soon as possible. On the weekend, Chen Xiaoyu accompanied me to the company. She sat in on a departmental briefing in the conference room, staying completely silent the whole time and taking notes diligently. After the meeting, several mid-level managers watched her leave and began discussing among themselves, "Is that the second daughter, the one who is Mr. Goo's biological child? I heard you grew up in the countryside, you look clever enough, but your foundation is a bit weak." I stood at the end of the corridor and took in every word of this conversation. "Weak foundation, don't rush, let her learn first. The more she learns and the more confident she feels, the easier it is for her to slip up." For the next 2 months, Chen Xiaoyu showed up at the company every weekend without fail, starting with the most basic process documents and gradually trying to understand content planning proposals. Her progress was clearly visible. Father's evaluation of her was getting higher and higher. "Little fish learns things quickly and has strong comprehension, much better than Wanqing was back in the day." When these words were casually spoken at the dinner table, Gu Wanqing's chopsticks clattered as they fell against the edge of her bowl. She bent down to pick them up, her head lowered, so no one could see her expression, but when she looked up again, her smile had returned. "Little fish has always been smarter than me, Dad, you should teach her more." That was an incredibly generous thing to say, but that same night, she came to see me again. "Sister, she's even going to the company now. Is the next step to divide my shares? Do you have any shares?" She froze. Indeed, she had no assets under her name that belonged to the Gu family. "The trust account and the riverside apartment that Grandpa gave me are all under my name. As for Gu Wanqing, as an adopted daughter, she has nothing under her name." This fact felt like a bucket of cold water, leaving her speechless. "Sister, then what am I?" "You're my sister, just a sister. Isn't having a sister enough?" I looked at her. "In this house, having me to watch over you is enough. Don't think about things you shouldn't." She remained silent for a long time. "Okay." I turned off the light, listening to the sound of her footsteps as she walked away. Now both chess pieces are in my hands. One thinks I am her support, the other thinks I am her sister, but the one truly playing the game is only me. High school begins. I got into the key high school with the top score in the city. The school posted my photo and grades on the bulletin board, with red background and black text, making it very eye-catching. On the first day of school, more than a dozen students gathered in front of the bulletin board, discussing, "Is that the eldest daughter of the Gu Media Group? She got the top score in the city. She's just too beautiful." I walked past them, not looking at the bulletin board, nor at them. In my past life, I couldn't even go to school. In this life, I'm going to take back everything I missed. Chen Xiaoyu also got into a key high school. Although it wasn't the top school in the city, her ranking was within the top 30, which was quite impressive for a transfer student. She wasn't in the same class as me, but the entire grade knew that Gu Nianan, who ranked first in the grade, and Gu Xiaoyu, who was in the top 30, were biological sisters, and Gu Wanqing, whose name never appeared on the academic ranking list, was also at the same school. It's just that she got in through the Gu family's connections. This matter spread among the classmates, and after being embellished, it turned into various versions. I heard Gu Wanqing is the daughter of a nanny, forced into the Gu family to act as the young lady, a fake young lady. No wonder her grades are so poor. Poor Gu Xiaoyu, who suffered hardships growing up in the countryside, had all the good days that should have been hers taken by the fake heiress. These discussions seeped into every corner of Gu Wanqing's campus life like water, finding its way through every crack. As she walked down the hallway, people pointed and whispered behind her back. When she went to the cafeteria to get food, girls at the next table whispered right in front of her. She became a transparent specimen at this school, placed under a microscope for everyone to observe. "That's the fake heiress. Look at the coat she's wearing." I heard it was the young lady's cast-off from last year. I don't know why the Gu family still keeps her. If it were me, I would have kicked her out long ago. These words reached my ears while I was reading in the library. The messenger was a girl in my class named Fong Running. Her mother was a mahjong partner of my mother and knew quite a bit about the Gu family's affairs. Nianan, don't you think Wanqing is just too pitiful? Those people really speak too harshly. I closed the book. Who's spreading it? So many people. It seems someone posted on a forum, detailing your family's affairs very thoroughly. Forum, I frowned. I didn't push this matter. Gu Wanqing herself wouldn't have spread it, and our parents certainly wouldn't either. So who posted on the forum? I asked Fong Running to send me a screenshot of the post. The account was anonymous, and the content was written in an emotional and detailed manner, portraying Chen Xiaoyu as a tragic princess returning home and depicting Gu Wanqing as a villain who took over someone else's place. This narrative perspective is entirely beneficial for Chen Xiaoyu, but it is a devastating blow for Gu Wanqing, who has the strongest motive. The answer is self-evident. I put my phone in my pocket without making a sound. Let's keep this in mind for now. There's no rush. But if my judgment is correct, Chen Xiaoyu's level is about to rise again. She not only knows how to act obedient at home but also understands how to leverage public opinion. In the third week of the semester, the grade organized a public speaking competition. I didn't sign up because there was no need, but Chen Xiaoyu did. When she went on stage, she was wearing a white shirt that had been washed until it was faded but clean. It wasn't the new clothes her mother bought for her, it was the old clothes she brought from her hometown. She did it on purpose. Over 200 students and more than a dozen teachers in the audience watched her, waiting for her to speak. My name is Gu Xiaoyu. 3 months ago, I was still called Chen Xiaoyu, living in a small town 200 kilometers away, washing dishes in a small restaurant to earn pocket money. 3 months later, I was sitting in the best high school in the city, wearing the school uniform and eating in the cafeteria. Someone asked me if I felt lucky. I don't think it's luck, it's fate finally starting to repay what it owed me. The audience fell silent for a moment, then erupted into applause. Several girls in the audience teared up on the spot. Every sentence, every word, and every pause in this speech was meticulously calculated. She wore old clothes on stage to emphasize, I come from a difficult past. She said fate owes me, to imply everything that was taken from me should be returned, and the fate she referred to, in everyone's understanding, was Gu Wanqing. A high, as expected, Chen Xiaoyu won first prize in the speech competition. Her name and speech video were posted by the school on its official public account. The title read, A Girl Who Grew Up in Adversity, Rewriting Her Fate Through Hard Work. The accompanying image was a photo of her standing on the podium in an old white shirt. The read count surpassed 20,000 in 3 days. The comments section is filled with unanimous sympathy and praise. This is what a true heiress looks like. Even if she crawls out of the mud, she's still gold. I wonder how the fake heiress feels after watching this video. Why doesn't the Gu family send the fake heiress away? Are they keeping her just to annoy people? Gu Wanqing was sitting in the school restroom when she saw these comments. I discovered her when I went to look for her. She was crouched in the stall, both hands covering her mouth, crying so hard her whole body shook, but she didn't dare make a sound. Her phone screen was still lit, the page frozen on those comments. I pulled her up. Does crying help? She shook her head. Then don't cry. She wiped her face hard, but the tears wouldn't stop. Sister, she did it on purpose, didn't she? Yes, she wore that old dress on stage on purpose, and her speech was deliberately aimed at me. Then why didn't you help me? Because you didn't ask me to. She was stunned. You were being talked about, isolated, and made a laughingstock at school, yet you never once spoke to me about it. I looked into her eyes. You were waiting for me to come and save you. But you forgot what I told you. You have to stand up for yourself. I can't shield you forever. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. I turned on the faucet and let her wash her face. Take 3 days to think about what to do next. Come find me when you've made up your mind. I turned and walked out of the bathroom. After stepping out, I paused for a moment. 3 days. 3 days were enough for Gu Wanqing to realize one thing. Her only way out was to completely tie herself to my ship, not as my sister, but as my soldier, follow my commands and fight my way. Otherwise, Chen Xiaoyu would eat her up without leaving a single bone. 3 days later, Gu Wanqing came to see me. Her expression was different from 3 days ago. There were no tears, no panic. Sister, I've made up my mind. Speak. I can't beat her. In studies, looks, eloquence, and cunning, I lose in every aspect. So I won't confront her head-on anymore. So what do you plan to do? She looked at me and said word by word, I'll do whatever you ask me to do. that's exactly what I was waiting to hear. Good, from now on, don't pay any more attention to those discussions. Whatever anyone says, just smile and let it pass. No explanations, no arguments, no tears. The only thing you need to do is stick close to me. When I go to class, you go to class. When I read, you read. When I go to the company, you follow along. You don't need to become outstanding. You just need to become obedient. She nodded without hesitation. The corner of my mouth twitched slightly. I had the tool in hand, a willing, absolutely obedient tool. What she didn't know was that I had her follow me to the company not to train her, but to let Chen Xiaoyu see that Gu Wanqing and I were still united as one. This was a signal for Chen Xiaoyu. If you want to win me over, you must first get past Wanqing. Two lines restrain each other, while I coordinate from the center. This is the most stable chess game. That autumn when I entered the second year of high school, a new variable has emerged. His name is Song Shishing. The Song and Gu families have been close friends for generations. Song Shishing's father, Song Haiping, was my father's university classmate and is also the largest advertising partner of Gu Media, serving as the head of Song Advertising. Song Shishing is a year older than me, currently in his senior year of high school. He has a clean and refined appearance, and his academic performance consistently ranks within the top 5 in the entire school. Both families have always intended to match us up, but I have little interest in the matter. In my previous life, I spent 20 years in a wheelchair and never experienced love. In this life, I don't consider it a necessity either. Yet Song Shishing himself made me change my mind, not because he had any interest in me, but because Chen Xiaoyu had an interest in him. She hid it well, but I noticed a few details. When Song Shishing came to visit, Chen Xiaoyu would deliberately change into a nicer outfit. During the meal, she sat opposite Song Shishing, noticeably speeding up the frequency of picking up food with her chopsticks. When Song Shishing spoke, her gaze would linger on him for an extra 2 seconds. A 16-year-old girl couldn't hide her thoughts. This was a point that could be exploited. If Chen Xiaoyu likes Song Shishing, and Song Shishing is coming for me, then all I need to do is show a little affection towards Song Shishing to throw Chen Xiaoyu off balance. A person who loses their balance is bound to make mistakes. I began to intentionally or unintentionally show my best side in front of Song Shishing. It's not the kind of goodness that's forced, it's the goodness I naturally possess. At the school art exhibition, my meticulous brushwork peony painting was selected as the grade's representative work. Song Shishing stood in front of the painting for a long time and said to a classmate beside him, "What Gu Nianan paints has bones in it." When these words reached my ears, I smiled. This guy has good taste. It also reached Chen Xiaoyu's ears. That day after she returned home, for the first time ever, she didn't do her homework but instead locked herself in her room and drew for the entire evening. The next day, she showed it to her mother. "Can little fish paint too?" Mom exclaimed in surprise as she took it. Opening it up, it was a watercolor landscape. The composition was conventional. The colors were applied fairly evenly, but compared to my meticulous brushwork painting, the difference was obvious at a glance. Mom praised it with a couple of well-painted and then set it aside. Chen Xiaoyu's expression darkened almost imperceptibly. I saw it from the side. She's competing with me. This way of competing is bound to lose, because I've been practicing for over 10 years, and she just started. The gap can't be bridged by effort alone, at least not in the short term, but Chen Xiaoyu won't give up easily. She just switched to a different track. 1 week later, Chen Xiaoyu represented our school in the inter-school debate competition. On stage, she spoke eloquently, with clear logic and quick reactions, leaving the opposing debaters speechless. In the end, she was awarded the title of Best Debater. The whole school was in an uproar. This time, she wasn't wearing old clothes. She was dressed in the new coat her mother had bought for her, her hair neatly tied up, standing on the podium with a confident and poised smile. Song Shishing was also in the audience. After the competition, he walked up to Chen Xiaoyu and said, "You debated well." Chen Xiaoyu's face flushed for a moment. It was almost too quick to see, but I saw it. I stood in the last row of the audience, taking in this scene. Perfect. Her weakness has been exposed. Song Shishing. This name could become a useful blade at a critical moment. Second semester of senior high school, a major event occurred in the Gu family. During a medical checkup, Grandpa was diagnosed with a heart issue, and the doctor recommended hospitalization for observation. When the news reached home, everyone became tense. It wasn't just because of Grandpa's health, but also because of an issue that everyone was aware of, but never openly discussed. Inheritance grandfather is the founder of Goo Media. Although he has already stepped back from the front lines, his will remains the greatest steering wheel for the entire family. If he falls, the issue of inheritance will immediately be placed on the table. Father is the only son, so there is no suspense at this level. Suspense in the next generation, among the three granddaughters, who is the one he truly recognizes as his successor. On the third day of hospitalization, Grandpa called me to the ward. Nyenin, have a seat. I sat down by the bedside. Grandpa is fine. The doctor said he just needs to be observed for a couple of days. He waved his hand, indicating there was no need to worry. I called you here to discuss something important. Go ahead. I'm getting old, and your father is at the age where he should fully take over, but your father is too soft-hearted, and I'm afraid he won't be able to distinguish what's important in the future. He looked at me, his murky eyes holding something profound. Nyenin, from now on, you'll have to hold this family together. You are the eldest daughter, the biological one, and the most outstanding. I know everything you've learned at the company over the years, and the vice presidents all speak very highly of you. He placed his hand on the back of mine. After I'm gone, you must hold this family steady. I nodded. Don't worry, Grandpa, there's one more thing. His tone slowed a bit. What do you think of that child, Xiaoyu? I thought for a moment and said something impartial. Smart, with a mind of his own, but still needs time. Grandfather nodded. That's my feeling too. Smart as he is, his foundation is too shallow to accomplish anything significant. As for Wanqing, he sighed and didn't continue. The meaning is already clear. In Grandpa's view, only I am the future of the Gu family. Although Chen Xiaoyu is the biological child, she grew up outside and lacks a solid foundation. Gu Wanqing is not a biological child, so she is directly out of the running. This conversation has confirmed one thing for me. As long as Grandpa is around for a day, my position is secure for a day, but Grandpa won't be around forever. So I need to solidify my position while Grandpa is still here. On the way back from the hospital, I called my lawyer. Help me check the equity structure of Goo's Media, including all shareholders and their proportions. Also, register an investment company in my personal name and set up the framework first. At 16, I began to lay out my own plans. The news of Grandpa's hospitalization caused quite a stir in the family circle. Distant relatives who usually don't keep in touch suddenly became very enthusiastic, visiting the hospital frequently. Some even came directly to the house to visit Mom and Dad. In reality, they were just fishing for information. Third uncle was the most proactive one. He served as the deputy general manager at Gu Media, ostensibly assisting my father. But in reality, he had long harbored his own agenda. On the 5th day of Grandpa's hospitalization, third uncle brought his son, Gu Wenchuan, to our home for dinner. Gu Wenchuan was 2 years older than me, studying abroad, and had been specifically called back for this occasion. The intention is clear. Cards on the table. At the dinner table, third uncle deliberately steered the conversation toward the company. Big brother, Dad's health isn't good, and you're carrying the company alone. It's too much. Wenchuan is about to graduate from college, and I think he should join the company to gain experience, so he can help share the burden in the future. Dad paused his chopsticks while picking up food. What major is Wenchuan studying? Finance. Third uncle puffed out his chest. He was admitted with a full scholarship. I quietly ate my meal beside them, not looking up. Full scholarship, I've checked. He's enrolled in the most lenient business program at that university. The scholarship is a discount for international students, not a reward for academic excellence, but I didn't expose him. Such matters don't require my personal intervention. Mom spoke up. You can join the company, but Nyenin is also learning there now. Discuss with Nyenin how to arrange things. Third uncle's smile stiffened slightly. Nyenin, she's still a high school student, isn't she? Yes, but she's been following your eldest brother since she was 12. Mom's tone was neither light nor heavy. Everyone in the company knows her. Third uncle picked up his teacup and took a sip. Saying nothing more, Gu Wenchuan remained silent throughout the entire meal and said to me before leaving, "Cousin, please take care of me more at the company in the future." I smiled and said, "You're too polite, cousin." After watching them leave, I returned to my room and turned on the computer. Another opponent has emerged. No, to be precise, there is one more set of opponents. Third uncle and Gu Wenchuan are aiming for the management rights of Gu Media. Add to that Qin Xiaoyu's ambition and Gu Wanqing's will to survive. In this game of chess, the pieces are increasing, but it doesn't matter. Having many chess pieces isn't scary. What's scary is when the chess player doesn't know what game they're playing, and I know very well Gu Wenchuan joined the planning department of Gu Media. Starting from the grassroots level, third uncle arranged it quite cleverly. Instead of directly placing him in management, he had him start from the bottom and work his way up, which not only appeared humble but also allowed him to accumulate experience. But on his first weekend at the company, he bumped into me. Nianen, I happen to be reviewing a proposal. Could you help me take a look at it? I took the file he handed over and flipped through a few pages. The budget for the third part has an issue. You've underestimated the online promotion costs by half. He paused for a moment. Where? I pointed it out. He took a look, and a hint of embarrassment flashed across his face. Thank you. I'll go back and make the changes. His level of skill is not sufficient to support an intern in the planning department, but I didn't tell anyone about this discovery. Let him do it. If he makes a mistake, someone will naturally help me deal with him. Meanwhile, Chen Xiaoyu also began her internship at the company. She was assigned to the marketing department, doing some simple data organization work, but she took it very seriously, and every report she submitted was well organized and accurate in data. The head of the marketing department privately praised her to her father. Although the second young lady is young, she is more reliable than many interns. This comment reached home, and Mom was so happy she made 2 extra dishes. Upon hearing this, Gu Wenchuan remarked offhandedly, Xiaoyu is quite good, but it's a pity her foundation is a bit lacking. If she really wants to be in management, she'll need another 8 to 10 years of experience. That remark was meant for me. The implication was, we are on the same side, while she is an outsider. I didn't take the bait. Who said I'm on your side? Do you think I can't see through the little schemes between you and your dad? The winter of my senior year in high school, one event completely shattered the delicate balance that had been maintained for months. The school was to recommend one student to participate in the Provincial Youth Innovation Competition, with only one spot available. The school recommended me. The reasons were solid. Top academic performance in the school, numerous awards in traditional Chinese painting, amateur 5 Dan and Go, and extensive internship experience in enterprises. Comprehensive qualities are unmatched, but Chen Xiaoyu was not convinced. She went to see the grade director. Teacher, I want to participate too. My debate competition award experience also meets the requirements. Why can't there be 2 spots? The grade director was in a difficult position. The rule is that each school can only recommend one person. Then can we have a fair competition? Both of them can sign up, and let the judges decide. The grade director reported the matter to the principal, who then sought the father's opinion. Dad's attitude is, both daughters are excellent. The school should just follow the rules, impartial and fair. But this answer was a green light for Chen Xiaoyu, because follow the rules meant that as long as she secured the spot, it would be fine. In the end, the school came up with a compromise. There would be an internal selection round, with the candidate chosen based on a combination of academic performance, awards, and on-site presentation. Whoever scored the highest would go. Once the news spread, the entire school was in an uproar. Sisters competing for the same spot. This is more dramatic than a TV show. It's definitely Gu Nianen who'll win, right? Is there anything she's not good at? Not necessarily. Gu Xiaoyu once won first place in the provincial debate competition. Gu Wanqing came to me with a very nervous expression. Sister, she's openly challenging you. Aren't you angry? Angry about what? I closed the book. If she has the ability to compete, I have the ability to win. What if you lose? I glanced at her. When have I ever lost? On the day of the selection, the large lecture hall was packed with people. The judges were the principal, 3 grade-level directors, and 2 external reviewers. During the live presentation, Chen Xiaoyu performed exceptionally well. She analyzed the changes in how teenagers access information today using a set of data, presenting her points clearly, with novel insights and a steady stage presence. The applause was enthusiastic. When it was my turn, I didn't use any data or charts. I brought a painting, a 2-meter-long meticulous brushwork painting of 100 birds, which I spent 3 months creating. I unfolded the painting and hung it on the blackboard, then stepped aside. No explanation, no analysis, no impassioned speech, only the painting. The lecture hall fell silent for over 10 seconds. Then the principal stood up and began to applaud. The judges followed suit with applause. The students also joined in with applause. It wasn't just polite applause. They were genuinely stunned. Every feather, every leaf, every drop of dew on that painting was drawn stroke by me. 12 years of skill are all on this piece of paper. The final result was beyond any doubt. I secured the recommendation spot. With the highest total score across 3 categories, Chin Xiaoyu lost, but she lost with grace. After the selection ended, she took the initiative to walk up to me and extended her hand. "Congratulations, sister." I shook hands with her. "You did well too." The watching classmates exclaimed, as expected of real sisters, so graceful whether winning or losing. Only she and I knew that at the moment of the handshake, her fingers tightened slightly. It wasn't a friendly force, but a restrained one. She was holding back. Losing itself isn't scary. What's terrifying is losing to me, because losing to me means that in the Gu family, at school, and in everyone's perception, she will always be second. Second place has no inheritance rights. I won the gold medal in the provincial innovation competition. When the news reached the school and home, my parents were overjoyed. After hearing the news in the hospital, Grandpa immediately called Dad. "Bring Nianen's award certificate for me to see." After seeing it, he made a decision: add 50 million to the trust under Nianen's name, and also transfer 5% of the company's equity to her. This news exploded like a bomb within the Gu family. 5%. Gu Media currently has a market value of 12 billion. 5% equals 600 million. A high school student with 600 million in equity under their name. Third uncle called Dad that very day. "Big brother, isn't Dad being too impulsive? Nianen is still a child, isn't it inappropriate to put such a large amount of equity under her name?" Dad's reply was brief: "Dad's decision, I won't interfere." Third uncle hung up the phone and smashed a cup. The source of the message was told to me by the butler. Upon hearing it, I only said one thing: "Third uncle's cup is broken. Have someone send a new set over tomorrow." The butler looked at me, opened his mouth, but said nothing. This incident triggered a series of chain reactions at home. Gu Wanqing came to see me the night she learned the news. "Sister, 600 million, her voice trembling. "You have 600 million in your name." What about me? What do you want?" She remained silent for a long time. "I don't want anything. I just want to keep staying in this house." "Then stay well." I patted her shoulder. "As long as I'm here, no one will drive you away." She nodded and left. Chin Xiaoyu didn't come to find me, but the next morning during breakfast, she poked her chopsticks in the bowl for a long time without picking up any food. Mom asked her what was wrong, and she smiled, saying it was nothing. Maybe she hadn't slept well last night. I know what she's thinking. As the biological daughter of the Gu family, I have 600 million in equity. While she has nothing, grandfather's decision is essentially a public announcement of the order of succession. First place, Gu Nian and others, without a name. For Chin Xiaoyu, this was more cruel than losing a competition. A competition can be lost and tried again, but once equity is allocated, it's allocated unless she can do something to make her grandfather change his mind, so she will definitely take action next. Indeed, 3 days after the equity incident, Chin Xiaoyu did something that no one expected. She took out a document in front of the whole family. "Dad, Grandpa," her voice was very calm, "I've found Zhou Xilian's whereabouts." Everyone at the table stopped moving. "She's now working under a fake name in a county town in the neighboring province. I tracked her online activity for 2 months and pinpointed her location." She placed the file on the table and pushed it over. "I want to ask Mom and Dad to report her to the police and have her brought back, not for my own sake, but to bring this matter to a close." Dad picked up the file, flipped through it, his expression turning grave. Mom's eyes reddened again. Grandfather thumped his cane on the ground. "Good, this girl has backbone." The entire family's attention instantly focused on Chin Xiaoyu. With a single document, she diverted everyone's gaze away from my 600 million shares. At the same time, she also gave herself 2 layers of halo. One is capable, and the other is responsible. She is telling everyone, "I am no worse than Gu Nianen. It's just that my opportunity came later." High, too high, but I'm not panicked, because Zhou Xilian being caught is actually a good thing for me. Zhou Xilian only knows one truth: 15 years ago, she stole the youngest daughter of the Gu family. What she doesn't know is, back then, I was awake, I saw everything, and I chose not to stop it. As long as she doesn't know this, her testimony is safe for me. In fact, if she is caught and punished, it can further reinforce the narrative that Chin Xiaoyu is a victim, and the label of victim is precisely Chin Xiaoyu's greatest shackle, because victims receive sympathy, not respect. Sympathy can bring comfort, but it cannot secure inheritance rights. Zhou Xilian was apprehended and brought back 2 weeks later. This time, She was not allowed to enter the house. Her father's legal team met with her in a conference room. I didn't go, but I retrieved the records from the lawyer's side. Zhou Xilian's statement was the same as what she said back then. Qin Dahai forced her to switch the children, and she did it out of a moment of weakness. After the switch, she regretted it every day but didn't dare to speak up. Later, Qin Dahai ran away, and she lived alone with her daughter, who was actually the biological daughter of the Gu family. Later, when the daughter learned the truth, she became even more afraid to face it and ran away with the money. There was no mention of me throughout, no one ever asked her. When the children were swapped back then, was the Gu family's eldest daughter awake? Because no one would expect a 3-year-old child to pretend to be asleep, even fewer would imagine that a 3-year-old child would choose not to intervene. This secret will forever remain known only to me. After Zhou Xilian's matter was settled, the household returned to a temporary calm, but the undercurrents never ceased. On third uncle's side, Gu Wenchuan had been at the company for half a year, performing unremarkably. His proposals were rejected 3 times, and colleagues in the marketing department privately called him a nepotism hire. Third uncle grew anxious and began pressuring dad frequently. Brother, Wenchuan needs more opportunities. Putting him in the planning department is a waste of his talent. Dad didn't respond directly, but he said one thing to me privately. Nianan, your third uncle has ideas. I nodded. I know. What are you planning to do? There's no need to do anything, I said. Just let him expose himself. Dad glanced at me and sighed. You are stronger than me. The weight of these words coming from my father's mouth was immense. He wasn't praising my intelligence. He was admitting that his control over the family was less than that of his 17-year-old daughter. 1 month before the college entrance exam, at the company's annual shareholders meeting, something happened. Third uncle proposed a family trust reform plan. At the meeting, the core content was, the equity distribution for the third generation of the Gu family should be equalized and not overly concentrated in the hands of one person. In other words, Gu Nianan has taken too much and should share it with others. This others includes Gu Wenchuan. It also includes Qin Xiaoyu. Third uncle is very clever. He brought Qin Xiaoyu in as an ally, a switched biological daughter, who suffered and struggled from a young age, finally returns home only to receive nothing. This narrative holds up in any situation. If we fight for Gu Wenchuan alone, it would look too greedy, but if we do it under the banner of fair treatment for all third-generation members, it becomes much more justified. During the meeting, several minority shareholders echoed third uncle's proposal. Third brother makes a good point of fairness for everyone. Nianan is indeed outstanding, but Xiaoyu is also a member of the Gu family. We cannot favor one over the other. Father sat in the main seat without expressing an opinion. He glanced at me. I stood up. Uncles and elders, allow me to say a few words. The entire room fell silent. A 17-year-old girl speaking at a shareholders meeting. The scene itself was enough to draw attention. I've reviewed third uncle's proposal. My voice was not loud, but every word was clearly audible to everyone. Equal distribution of shares sounds fair, but fairness and reasonableness are not the same thing. Grandfather gave me the shares not because I'm the eldest daughter, nor because I'm his biological granddaughter. It's because I've been learning in this company since I was 12 years old. For 5 years, I've worked in every department and read every report. Third uncle, may I ask how many complete proposals has cousin Wenchuan completed since joining the company 6 months ago, and how many of them were approved? Third uncle's expression changed. Xiaoyu has interned in the marketing department for a few months, and the data reports she produced were indeed quite good. But the distance between data organization and business management is something you all understand better than I do. If equity is to be allocated based on capability, I have no objections, but the premise is that the capability must stand up to scrutiny. I placed a document on the table. This is an investment company under my personal name, established 4 months ago, and it has already achieved positive returns on 3 projects. The specific data is in the document. The room fell silent again. Several small shareholders opened the document, glanced at it, and exchanged a look with each other. Uncle's suggestion was left unresolved. After the meeting, Dad intercepted me in the hallway. When did you set up that investment company? For months ago. You never told me. No need to say it. I smiled. This is my own business. Dad looked at me, opened his mouth, and in the end only said 2 words, impressive. This shareholders meeting was the first time I publicly took a stand within the Gu family. The outcome was better than I had anticipated. Third uncle has temporarily settled down, And the attitudes of the minority shareholders have clearly shifted in my favor. Chin Xiaoyu approached me after the meeting. Sis, you were really impressive today, thank you, but have you ever considered that what third uncle said might not be entirely unreasonable? I looked at her. I am the biological daughter of the Gu family. Her voice was soft, but I have nothing in my name. What are you implying? I'm not implying anything. She shook her head. I'm just stating a fact. The fact is, you've been back for less than 2 years. How long is long enough? I didn't answer that question. I turned and walked away, but this conversation made me realize one thing. Chin Xiaoyu's patience is wearing thin. She is unwilling to remain second forever. At the shareholders' meeting, third uncle's proposal was suppressed by me, and her hope for equal distribution of shares did not materialize. If the proper channels don't work, what will she do? The answer will be revealed in 3 days. While flipping through old photos, Mom found a picture. The photo showed Gu Wanqing right after she was born in the hospital, but on the back of the photo, there was a line of small handwriting, written by Mom herself. Back then, the youngest daughter was born, weighing 5 pounds and 6 ounces, with a lot of hair, just like her sister. The words, just like her sister, left my mother stunned, because Gu Wanqing, from childhood to adulthood, bore no resemblance to me whatsoever. Could it be that the baby who was thought to be just like her sister back then had already been switched, or is it that before the moment she was swapped, she really did look like me? Mom held the photo, turning it over and over, suddenly feeling that the baby in the picture didn't match Gu Wanqing's current facial features at all. She hurriedly went to find Dad. Look at this photo. Is this really Wanqing? I remember when my youngest daughter was born, her hair was dark and thick, but in Wanqing's childhood photos, her hair was clearly yellow and sparse. What does this mean? It means that by the time she was swapped, Wanqing was no longer our daughter, but at that time, Xiaoyu had only been born a few days. Did Zhou Xiulian swap them at the hospital or at home? The more she thought about it, the more confused she became, and the more confused she grew, the more panicked she felt. Dad was also somewhat swayed by her words. How did you manage to dig this up? Xiaoyu found it while helping me sort through old things. I stood outside the door, hearing this sentence clearly. Xiaoyu helped her sort through old belongings, then she coincidentally came across this photo. Then her mother naturally had a new question. Chin Xiaoyu was adding fuel to the fire. She doesn't need to say anything attacking Gu Wanqing herself. She only needs to place the right things in front of the right people and let them think for themselves. The more her mother thinks about it, the more her trust in Gu Wanqing diminishes. The more her trust in Gu Wanqing diminishes, the more secure Chin Xiaoyu's position in this family becomes. A silent war is the deadliest. I did not stop this matter, nor did I push it forward. These two sisters wearing each other down only benefits me, but I need to control the pace of consumption, not letting any side collapse too quickly. If it's too fast, the game becomes uninteresting. The college entrance exam is over. On the day the results came out, the whole family sat in the living room waiting for the notification. My score, third in the province, can get into any university I want. Chin Xiaoyu's score, 120th in the province, not bad, but several tiers below me. Gu Wanqing's score, just barely above the regular undergraduate cutoff. The 3 individuals' results were like 3 mirrors, reflecting each person's position within the family. Upon hearing the news, Grandpa laughed heartily 3 times over the phone. Nianan, where did you say you wanted to go? Stay in the province. I said, go to the School of Economics and Management. Not going to the capital. No, the company is here, home is here. If I leave, who will keep an eye on things? There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. Then Grandpa said something that surprised me. Good boy, you're so much better than your dad. Dad heard this too. He wasn't upset, just smiled and shook his head. He knows that facts are facts. He is too soft-hearted and indecisive. The family needs a tough character. I am that tough character. The first year of university, everything is proceeding according to my plan. My academic performance at school has consistently ranked at the top, while I remotely manage my investment company, adding 2 new projects in just half a year. Gu Wenchuan is becoming increasingly marginalized within the company. Although my third uncle is unwilling to accept it, he no longer has the leverage to confront me directly. Chin Xiaoyu was admitted to the second-best university in our province, majoring in journalism and communication. This major choice made me realize one thing. She is paving the way for herself. In journalism and communication, what you study is the power of public opinion and information. From speech competitions to forum posts, and even finding old photos while organizing belongings. She has always been using information to manipulate situations. Now she wants to systematically learn this thing. If she masters it, her combat power will double, but I'm not afraid, because information is a double-edged sword. You can use it to hurt others, and others can use it to hurt you, as long as you have weaknesses. Information will find you. The winter vacation of the second semester of my freshman year, the whole family had the New Year's Eve dinner at the old house. Grandfather sat in the main seat, looking quite spirited as he watched the whole family, a broad smile on his face. The atmosphere at the dinner table was relatively harmonious, at least on the surface. Third uncle clinked glasses with Dad, and Gu Wenchuan said Happy New Year to me. Chen Xiaoyu served grandfather some food, while Gu Wanqing sat quietly beside me, eating. Everything was perfectly normal, until halfway through the meal. The doorbell rang. The butler went to answer it and returned with a slightly strange expression. Sir, there's a woman at the door who says she wants to see you. What woman? It's New Year's Eve today. Who would come knocking? She said. She's Zhou Xilian's sister. The whole table fell silent. Zhou Xilian's sister. Father's face darkened. Let her go. Before the butler could turn around, the woman had already barged in on her own. She was around 50 years old, with permed hair, wearing a red down jacket, and carrying a plastic bag in her hand. As soon as she entered, she scanned everyone in the room, then smiled. Oh, the whole family celebrating the new year together. Dad stood up. Who are you? What are you doing here? My name is Zhou Xiuzhen, Zhou Xilian's older sister. Her tone was calm and unhurried. My sister has been locked up and can't even celebrate the new year. I'm here on her behalf to see you, to see how my sister's biological daughter is doing in the Gu family. Her gaze fell upon Gu Wanqing. Gu Wanqing's chopsticks dropped onto the table. Oh my, this must be Wanqing, right? Zhou Xiuzhen walked over, looking her up and down. You look exactly like my sister when she was young. Gu Wanqing's face turned as pale as paper. I sat beside them, not moving. Zhou Xiuzhen then looked at Chen Xiaoyu. Is this the Gu family's biological child? She does resemble the young lady. She pulled out a stack of papers from the plastic bag. My sister asked me to give these things to you. These are Wanqing's photos from childhood to now, along with her medical records from when she was sick as a child and her report cards. My sister said she feels sorry for the Gu family, but she truly loved Wanqing. She hopes that even if you find out Wanqing is not your biological daughter, you won't treat her poorly. She said these words with a tone of carefully calculated sincerity, not too much, not too little, just enough to move the softest-hearted person present. Sure enough, Mother's eyes welled up with tears. Wanqing, Gu Wanqing lowered her head, her shoulders trembling. The entire living room fell into a subtle mood: sympathy, guilt, complexity, embarrassment. And this was precisely the most dangerous moment, because emotions can lead people to make irrational decisions. If, in such an atmosphere, someone were to suggest something like giving Wanqing a share of the family property, the situation would spiral out of control. I must interrupt before that happens. Auntie, my voice rang out clearly and brightly. Everyone looked at me. You've come at just the right time. I have a few questions I'd like to ask you. Zhou Xiuzhen's smile stiffened slightly. You said you are Zhou Xilian's older sister. May I ask when was the last time you contacted Zhou Xilian? This, 2 days ago. 2 days ago. But as far as I know, after Zhou Xilian was detained, there were no records of any contact with you in the communication logs. Zhou Xiuzhen's expression changed. That's because you didn't investigate carefully. Our legal team checked 3 times. My tone held no aggression, as flat as stating the weather forecast. Additionally, in Zhou Xilian's household registration records, she is the only child in her family. No older sister, no younger sister. The gazes of everyone at the table simultaneously shot toward Zhou Xiuzhen. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again. You. So my question is, I stood up and walked over to her. Who exactly are you? Who sent you? What is your real purpose for coming here? The air in the living room instantly changed temperature. Dad immediately reacted. Call security. Third uncle also stood up, taking a step back. Zhou Xiuzhen, or rather this woman impersonating Zhou Xilian's sister, completely lost her composure. She took 2 steps back, bumping into the doorframe. Don't do anything reckless. I'm just here to see the child. The security guard had already come in from outside. Wait a moment. I called out to the security guard and walked over to Zhou Xiuzhen. Before you're escorted out, leave that stack of papers behind. Zhou Xiuzhen tightly clutched the plastic bag. That's Wanqing's stuff. Wanqing's things can stay with Wanqing. I reached out my hand. But you have to leave. She hesitated for a few seconds, then let go. I took the plastic bag. The security guard escorted her out. The living room fell quiet again. Mom was still a bit dazed. Nianin, how did you know she was fake? The fact that Zhou Xuelian is an only child is recorded in the investigation file. I placed the plastic bag on the table. Someone went to great lengths to stage this act, aiming to play the emotional card during the New Year's Eve dinner. Who? Dad's expression turned grim. I didn't answer. I don't need to answer, because the answer is too obvious. Who most wants Gu Wanqing to gain more sympathy? Who is best at using information and emotions to manipulate the situation? Who happens to be studying journalism and communication? My gaze swept over Qin Xiaoyu. She was lowering her head to drink soup, her expression so calm that nothing seemed amiss. But her hands were clasped together under the table, her knuckles turning white. I see, this round was set up by her. She found someone to impersonate Zhou Xuelian's sister and staged a tearful drama during the New Year's Eve dinner. The goal was to evoke sympathy and guilt from the entire family towards Gu Wanqing, thereby sparking a discussion about fair treatment. The end point of the discussion is to divide the family assets for Gu Wanqing. On the surface, it appears to be about fighting for Gu Wanqing's interests. In reality, once the door to equal division is opened, she can also get a share of the pie. She might even get more than Gu Wanqing, because she is the biological daughter. Kill two birds with one stone. But I exposed it on the spot. Qin Xiaoyu looked up and met my gaze. She smiled, very faint, very light, as if saying, "You win this round." I also smiled, as if saying, "Every round is." The New Year's Eve dinner ended in a subtle atmosphere. That night, when I returned to my room, Gu Wanqing came to find me. "Sister, who exactly arranged for that woman? What do you think?" She thought for a moment, and her expression changed. "Is it Xiaoyu? I didn't say it was her, but that's what you meant." Gu Wanqing's voice rose slightly. "Why would she do that? To help me fight for the family inheritance? Since when has she been so kind?" "She's not helping you, she's helping herself." The Gu Wanqing fell silent. After a long while, she looked up at me. "Sister, I'm scared." "What are you afraid of?" "I'm afraid that one day you'll abandon me too." I looked into her eyes. These eyes were completely different from my own sister's. Not smart enough, not sharp enough, but loyal enough. "I keep my word. Follow me, and no one will dare touch you." She nodded heavily. After the door closed, I sat alone by the window. The situation on the chessboard is becoming increasingly clear. Third uncle wants management rights, but he has no pieces to play. Gu Wenchuan is unreliable, and his own influence is insufficient. Qin Xiaoyu wants the right of inheritance. Her methods are clever, but she is too eager for success. If I hadn't exposed her New Year's Eve dinner scheme, she might have actually succeeded. Gu Wanqing just wants to survive, but her very existence is a bargaining chip in the power struggles among all parties. As for me, I have equity, connections, my grandfather's trust, my father's approval, and an absolutely obedient Gu Wanqing. The only risk lies in whether Qin Xiaoyu and third uncle join forces. One has the means, the other has the position. Together, they could weaken my advantages, so there's only one thing to do next: make sure they can never join forces. After the start of my sophomore year, the first thing I did was invite third uncle out for a meal. The location was chosen at a tea restaurant near Gu's media, quiet and private. The third uncle was clearly surprised when he received the invitation. After sitting down, he held his teacup and looked at me without speaking. "Third uncle, I'll get straight to the point. You said, Gu Wenchuan has been in the planning department for almost a year, and his performance hasn't been great." Uncle's expression tightened for a moment but quickly returned to normal. "Young people, they need time to grow. I mean, the planning department isn't suitable for him." Third uncle set down his teacup. "Then where do you think would be suitable?" "The brand collaboration department." I pushed a form over. This department was just established and is responsible for liaising with external partner brands. Cousin Wenchuan has spent a few years abroad, so his external communication skills are stronger than those of local employees. Placing him in this department would allow him to leverage his strengths. Third uncle looked at the form, then looked at me. "Nianin, what do you mean by this?" "Nothing much." I took a sip of tea. "You're my third uncle, and Wenchuan is my cousin. If I don't help you, who else would I help?" Third uncle remained silent for quite a while. "What are the conditions?" "No conditions. There must be conditions." I smiled. "Uncle, you're overthinking it. I just feel that everyone in the company should be in their proper place. Wenchuan isn't happy in the planning department, and that's not good for anyone. A change of position would make everyone more comfortable. Uncle looked at me for a long time before finally nodding. All right, let's do as you say. When we came out of the tea restaurant, third uncle glanced back at me. I waved at him. It felt very warm and natural. But the meaning was clear. I gave you a step. You need to take it. If you take it, we are family. If you don't, there won't be a next step. Gu Wenchuan was transferred to the brand cooperation department. This department was designed by me personally. On the surface, it interfaces with external brands, but in reality, its authority is quite limited, and core business operations do not pass through here. Gu Wenchuan received a prestigious title, yet he was distanced from the company's power center. Third uncle gained face, I gained substance. I won this deal, and I won it so convincingly that third uncle accepted it willingly. In the second half of my sophomore year, the school announced a nationwide enterprise innovation competition with substantial prizes and high prestige. I signed up. Chen Xiaoyu also signed up. She registered from her school, as each university could send one team, but coincidentally, the competition's regional division placed both of our universities in the same zone. If we both advance, we'll meet in the finals. When the news reached home, my mother was a bit troubled. Both of you are participating. What will you do if you end up facing each other? Then we'll compete, I said. Chen Xiaoyu said the same thing. Then let's compete. Mom looked at the two of us and sighed. The division competition is in March. My project is a data analysis platform based on the media industry, with a core team of 3 people, and I am the team leader. Chen Xiaoyu's project is a public welfare communication plan targeting rural education, with a core team of 4 people, and she is also the team leader. The directions of the 2 projects are completely different. I am working on a commercial project, while she is working on a public welfare project, but what the judges look at is not the direction, but the completeness and innovation. On the day of the divisional competition, the 2 teams were in the same venue, presenting in the morning and afternoon sessions. I was in the morning. She was in the afternoon. My presentation was straightforward, with ample data, clear logic, and a complete business model. The judges asked 3 questions, and I answered each one flawlessly. Chen Xiaoyu's presentation took a different approach. She used a large number of on-site research photos and videos to illustrate the challenges rural children face in accessing information. Her speaking skills were already outstanding, and combined with those authentic visuals and data, the effect was truly impressive. Several judges whispered among themselves after her presentation. The results came out a week later. Both teams advanced to the finals. Face-to-face, the final is scheduled for mid-April, to be held at the convention center in the provincial capital. That day, many people attended, including those from the investment community, the media, as well as professors and students from major universities. The Gu family also sent representatives. Dad sat in the first row of the audience, with Mom beside him. A grandfather didn't come, but he sent the butler to record the entire event. Third uncle and Gu Wenchuan also came, sitting in the third row. Gu Wanqing sat in the corner of the last row, unnoticed by anyone. Song Shishing also came. He sat in the second row by the window, wearing a dark blue coat, quietly watching the stage. I noticed Chen Xiaoyu glancing at him before going on stage. It was quick, but I saw it. The competition began. The first to take the stage was Chen Xiaoyu. This time, she was better prepared. Not only did she have data and videos, but she also invited a rural child to join via live video call, sharing his real story. The entire venue fell silent for a long time, followed by sustained applause. A female judge took off her glasses and wiped them, clearly moved. Chen Xiaoyu played the emotional card to perfection. Now it's my turn. I walked onto the stage without rushing to open my laptop. First, I scanned the entire room. Then he said a word. My opponent just told a very good story. Now I'll present an even better plan. A soft chuckle came from the audience. Then, I began the presentation. My solution underwent a significant upgrade based on the regional competition. It is no longer just a simple data analysis platform, but a comprehensive media industry solution. From data collection to content distribution to commercial monetization, it forms a complete closed loop, and on the most crucial page, I included a set of data. This data comes from real cases in the actual operations of Gu's media. I used data from my own company to prove the feasibility of the plan. This is not just theoretical talk, it is a tangible achievement. The judge's expression changed. A big shot in the investment circle raised his hand to ask a question right after my presentation. Student Gu, if this plan of yours is fully implemented, What is the estimated commercialization timeline? 18 months. Do you have pilot data? Yes. I flipped to the last page. This is the return data from 3 projects my personal investment company has executed using this logic over the past 6 months. When that page of data was displayed, the room fell silent once again. It wasn't a silence of being moved. It was a silence of being stunned by sheer capability. The final results were announced in the afternoon. Gold Award, Gu Nianan, Silver Award, Gu Xiaoyu. The total value, including the prize money and subsequent investment intentions, exceeds 2 million. Qin Xiaoyu stood on the podium, wearing a proper smile as she shook my hand and took a photo with me, but while taking the picture, she leaned close to my ear and said something. Sister, I won't lose next time. I didn't respond because it's unnecessary. The results speak for themselves. After the awards ceremony, Song Shishing was waiting for me at the exit. Congratulations. He handed me a bottle of water. Thank you. Your last page of data today looks great, but I have a question. Ask. Aren't you afraid of being accused of exploiting resources by using your own company's data? Resources are there, whether you use them or not is a matter of capability. I unscrewed the bottle cap and took a sip. Others might have the same resources but not necessarily use them well. He looked at me and smiled. You're different from other girls. Yeah, I know. His smile deepened. As I turned around, I caught a glimpse of Qin Xiaoyu standing not far away, clutching her trophy, watching the direction where we were talking. The smile on her face vanished. Instead, it was something very deep and heavy. It wasn't as simple as jealousy, it was a sense of unwillingness, a feeling that everything I should have is in someone else's hands. The gold medal, Song Shishing, everything of the Gu family. She felt that these things should have been hers. If she hadn't been swapped back then, she would have been the one who grew up in the Gu family. She would be the best educated person, the one with the most awards, the one pursued by Song Shishing, not Qin Xiaoyu, who washes dishes in the countryside, gets beaten and scolded, and can't even afford a new piece of clothing. Once this kind of what-if thought takes root, it can lead people to do many irrational things. The second week after the competition ended, Qin Xiaoyu did something that caught the entire family off guard. She posted a lengthy article on the school's new media platform. The title was, "A Girl Switched at Birth, My 15-Year Confession." The article was written with restraint, without naming names, but anyone who knew the Gu family could tell exactly who it was about. In her article, she detailed her upbringing, being beaten and scolded in the countryside, eating leftovers, wearing old clothes, and starting to work at the age of 10. Then, the tone shifts to the disparity she felt after returning home. I thought going back to my own home would be the end, but I didn't expect it to be just another beginning. My sister holds 600 million in equity. While I'm not even sure how long I can keep my own room, I don't blame anyone. I'm just wondering if fate is particularly cruel to some people. This article surpassed 100,000 reads in a single day. In the comments section, voices of sympathy flooded in. Isn't this too tragic? Even when a biological daughter returns home, she still faces differential treatment, 600 million to the eldest daughter, and nothing for the youngest. These parents are so biased. The fake heiress enjoyed 15 years of luxury in the Gu family, while the real heiress suffered for 15 years. Where is the justice in this? Public opinion has completely shifted in favor of Qin Xiaoyu. After reading the article, Mom cried in the living room for half an hour. Dad locked himself in the study and made over 20 phone calls, instructing the PR team to handle it. Grandpa was so angry on the phone that he couldn't speak. What does this girl want? To air our dirty laundry in public? Meanwhile, I sat in my own room and read the article from beginning to end 3 times. It was well written, it's really good, every word has been meticulously polished, and each paragraph strikes at the softest spots of ordinary readers. She has packaged herself as the perfect victim, but she made a mistake. She mentioned 600 million. This number is too specific, and the equity structure of the Gu family has never been publicly disclosed. There is only one possibility for her to know this number. Someone at home told her. Who? I dug out the call logs and message records from home. The answer surfaced 2 days later. It's third uncle. During a casual dinner a month ago, third uncle mentioned the matter of equity distribution to Qin Xiaoyu. His exact words were, "Nianan holds 5% of the company's equity, plus the trust. That's nearly 600 million. You've been back for so long and have nothing. Is that fair?" Qin Xiaoyu noted this information and later used it in her article. Third uncle and Qin Xiaoyu have still joined forces. The situation I least wanted to see has occurred. but I am not panicked, because their alliance does not mean they have one. Working together only means I can take care of things together. I sent a message to Gu Wanqing, tomorrow at noon, at the cafe by the school gate. I'll be waiting for you. The next day at noon Gu Wanqing arrived on time. She had also read that article, and her expression was not good. Sister, although that article didn't mention my name, everyone knows that the fake heiress refers to me. My classmates have started looking at me with strange eyes. Some people are saying behind my back that I'm an imposter who has taken over someone else's place. Do you care? She hesitated. I don't want to care, but I can't help it. I put down my coffee cup. Do you want to do something? What is it? Help me find out the source of Qin Xiaoyu's article. Source. She mentioned the specific figure of 600 million. Only family members know this number. I've already found out it was third uncle who told her, but that's not enough. I need more evidence. Proof that Qin Xiaoyu and third uncle have had close private dealings. Gu Wanqing's expression changed. Sister, are you going to? I want Grandpa and Dad to know what Qin Xiaoyu has been doing behind their backs. It's not me saying it, it's the evidence speaking. Gu Wanqing nodded. I'll go check. She moved faster than I expected. Within 3 days, she found multiple call records between Qin Xiaoyu and third uncle, as well as surveillance screenshots of them meeting at a remote tea house. The time span was 3 months. With at least 5 meetings, I organized these materials and, on a weekend morning, brought them to my grandfather's hospital room. Grandfather flipped through the materials, his expression gradually darkening. Who looked into this? I did. Do you suspect that Xiaoyu and your third uncle are in cahoots? It's not suspicion, it's a fact. I pointed at the call records. Third uncle leaked the family's equity information to Xiaoyu, and she used that information to write that article. The purpose of that article was to use public opinion to force you to redistribute the family assets. Grandfather placed the documents on the bedside table and closed his eyes. He remained silent for a full 2 minutes. Then he opened his eyes and looked at me. Nianan, what do you think we should do? Third uncle can keep his position as vice president in the company, but he can no longer be involved in core decision-making. Moving Gu Wenchuan to the brand cooperation department is already generous enough. If there are any more issues, he should be directly advised to leave. Where's Xiaoyu? She is the biological daughter of the Gu family and cannot be driven away. But she must understand that in this household, there are certain lines that cannot be crossed. Grandfather looked at me for a long while. You decide. The weight of these 3 words is heavier than 600 million in equity. It's as if grandfather has handed over the entire decision-making authority of the Gu family to me. After leaving grandfather's hospital room, I called my father. Dad, grandfather has asked me to handle something. Please wait for me at home tonight. That evening, the whole family was called to the living room. Dad, Mom, third uncle, Gu Wenchuan, Qin Xiaoyu, and Gu Wanqing. I stood in the middle of the living room and spread the documents on the coffee table. Uncle, do you acknowledge these call logs and meeting records? The moment Uncle saw those screenshots, all the color drained from his face. Nianan, what do you mean by this? Can't I just have a meal and catch up with Xiaoyu? Catching up is fine, I said, but sharing the family's equity data with her and letting her publish articles online, is that what you call catching up? The whole room fell silent. Mom looked at Qin Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu, were the numbers in that article really told to you by your third uncle? Qin Xiaoyu sat on the sofa, her expression complicated. She did not deny it, nor did they admit it. They only said, every word in that article is true. Whether it's true or not is one thing, I said, whether it should be published is another. Family matters should be resolved within the family. Taking them outside and using public opinion to force a resolution isn't solving the problem, it's coercion. Qin Xiaoyu slightly raised her chin. But at home, I don't even have the right to speak. You don't have the right. I looked at her. From the day you came back, Mom and Dad gave you a new room, bought you new clothes, hired a tutor for you, and arranged your school transfer. When you interned at the company, the marketing department assigned you a dedicated workstation. You participated in a competition, won a silver award, and kept all the prize money yourself. And you call that not having the right. What you're truly dissatisfied with isn't not being qualified. What you're dissatisfied with is that you feel you should have as much as I do. But why? These 2 words landed with a resounding impact. Qin Xiaoyu's expression finally cracked. On what grounds? On the grounds that I am also a biological daughter of the Gu family. You are biological, but you've been back for less than 2 years. Then what about the 15 years of hardship I endured? that's what Zhou Xilian owes you, not what the Gu family owes you. Chen Xiaoyu's chest heaved violently. Don't you think those words are too cold? Not cold. My voice was flat, that's the truth. The living room was so quiet that the hum of the air conditioner could be heard. Dad spoke up. Enough. He looked at third uncle, third brother. I won't pursue what happened between you and Xiaoyu, but from now on, don't get involved in family matters anymore. Then he turned to Chen Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu, you are my own daughter, and I won't treat you unfairly, but the way you posted that article has disappointed me. If you feel it's unfair, you can talk to me, to your mother, or even to Grandpa, but don't take it to the internet and let the whole world laugh at our family. Chen Xiaoyu's lips tightened. Delete the article, Dad said. She didn't move. Delete it, Dad repeated. She took out her phone and tapped a few times. Deleted. Dad nodded, stood up, and went back to his study. Mom followed him. Only us younger generation remained in the living room. Third uncle left with Gu Wenchuan in disgrace. Glancing at me before he went, that look held both fear and resentment. Gu Wanqing huddled in the corner of the sofa, not saying a word from start to finish. Chen Xiaoyu stayed in her seat, clutching her phone, not looking up. I walked up to her and bent down. Xiaoyu, I'm not your enemy. She looked up at me. But if you treat me as an enemy, my tone was very light, you'll find that you can't beat me at all. The corner of her mouth twitched slightly. Sister, are you really not afraid of anything? I am afraid. I straightened up. I'm afraid I'm not strong enough. That's why I'm getting stronger every day. I turned and went upstairs. When I reached the corner on the second floor, I paused for a moment. I glanced back at the living room. Chen Xiaoyu was still sitting on the sofa, unmoving, but her back was noticeably arched, like a cat with its tail pinned down. He's behaving for now, but could pop up at any moment. This battle isn't over yet, but the initiative is firmly in my hands. The next 2 months were unusually quiet at home. Third uncle has become much more low-key at the company, no longer actively bringing up any topics related to equity or inheritance. Gu Wenchuan is just coasting along in the brand cooperation department, neither excelling nor underperforming. Chen Xiaoyu has also toned down a lot, returning to school to focus on classes and no longer engaging in any underhanded schemes. It's so quiet that it feels unsettling. The calm before the storm often signals an even greater tempest. Indeed, 2 months later, an anonymous letter arrived at the headquarters of Gu Media. The content of the letter was brief. Gu Nianan was 3 years old when the nanny swapped her, and she was awake. She saw everything, but she chose not to stop it. I was sitting in the company's conference room reviewing a contract when I saw this letter. It was handed to me by my father's secretary. Miss, this letter was received at the front desk this morning. There's no sender information. I took the letter, read it, then folded it and put it in my pocket. Understood. Don't tell anyone. But, don't tell anyone, I repeated. The secretary nodded and left. I sat in the conference room, alone for 10 minutes. This letter. The person who could write this content must meet 2 conditions. First, know the details of the swap that happened back then. Second, know that I was awake at the time. There are many people who meet the first condition. Zhou Xilian, Chen Dahai, my parents, my grandfather, even my third uncle and a few relatives who were in the know. But there is only one person who meets the second condition, Zhou Xilian, because there were only 3 people in the room at that time, me, Zhou Xilian, and Chen Dahai. Chen Dahai checked my condition and confirmed that I was asleep. If someone later told Zhou Xilian that the eldest daughter might have been awake at the time, there is only one possibility. Zhou Xilian later recalled some clues. Or perhaps Chen Dahai mentioned something after drinking, and now Zhou Xilian is detained and unable to send letters, so the actual person who handled this letter is someone who has access to Zhou Xilian, who has access to her lawyer. No, the lawyer is on my side. Visiting relatives. Zhou Xilian has no relatives. The woman who pretended to be her sister has been identified as a hired imposter. There is only one possibility left. Someone bribed the person guarding Zhou Xilian and extracted this information from her, and the person with the motive and ability to do so, Chen Xiaoyu, she had previously found Zhou Xilian's whereabouts. She has the ability to find her again. This move is even more ruthless than all the previous methods, because if this letter is made public, my image will completely collapse. A person who watched their own sister being taken away at the age of 3 and chose not to stop it. No matter how I explain, I won't be forgiven. My parents won't forgive me. My grandfather won't forgive me. Public opinion certainly won't forgive me. Everything I've painstakingly built over more than a decade. The perfect eldest daughter, the outstanding heir, the role model for my sister, would all vanish into thin air. This is Chin Xiaoyu's trump card. She's not in a hurry to use it. First, she sends an anonymous letter to test the waters, to see my reaction, to see if I'm afraid. If I am afraid, she will have leverage in the negotiation. If I am not afraid, she will spread this information. But she underestimated me, of course. I am afraid, but the way I fear is that while being afraid, I already have a plan in mind. That night, I did 3 things. First, I contacted a lawyer to expedite the handling of Zhou Shilian's case. I wanted her to confess and sign the settlement as soon as possible, then transfer her to a more secure location to cut off any possibility of anyone contacting her again. Second, I instructed the investigative agency to trace the origin of that letter. No detail was to be overlooked: the envelope, paper, printing method, delivery time, and location. Third, I made a phone call to Song Shishing. You're calling at this hour, is something the matter? His voice carried a hint of drowsiness. Yes, I need to ask you for a favor, you said. Help me arrange a meal with Chin Xiaoyu. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. You want me to arrange a meal with your sister? Yeah, next Friday at noon. What's the reason? You want to ask her about the curriculum of their school's journalism and communication department. You're interested in this field. I'm not interested in this field at all. But Chin Xiaoyu didn't know. Song Shishing fell silent for a moment longer. All right. He didn't ask why, nor did he refuse. This is one thing I admire about him. Don't ask why. Just get things done first. Next Friday, Song Shishing invited Chin Xiaoyu to have lunch at a Western restaurant near the school. I didn't go, but I had someone arranged to sit at the next table, recording the entire conversation. The dinner lasted for an hour and a half. Following my arrangement, Song Shishing first talked about academics, then hobbies, and then casually brought up family matters. I heard you published an article earlier. I read it, and it was quite well written. Chin Xiaoyu's response was very cautious. I've already deleted it. My family doesn't allow me to post it. Why delete it? What you wrote is all true. What if it's true? In this family, the truth isn't always useful. What do you mean? Chin Xiaoyu hesitated for a moment. Song Shishing, what kind of person do you think my sister is? Smart, decisive, always thinking further ahead than others. Chin Xiaoyu stirred her coffee. She really does think further ahead than anyone else. So far ahead that you can't even guess what she's thinking. You don't seem to like her very much. It's not that I don't like her. Chin Xiaoyu looked up. It's fear. Afraid of what? I'm afraid her perfection isn't innate, it's calculated. Song Shishing didn't respond. Chin Xiaoyu continued. You know, sometimes I feel like my sister is kind to everyone, but the way she treats each person is like she's playing chess, including with you. Song Shishing put down his fork. Are you trying to remind me of something? Chin Xiaoyu smiled. I'm just expressing how I feel. Whether you believe it or not is up to you. The recording of this conversation was in my hands that very evening. I listened to the recording twice. Chin Xiaoyu was doing 2 things. First, testing Song Shishing's attitude toward me. Second, plant seeds of doubt about me in Song Shishing's mind. The way she treats everyone well is like playing chess. This statement carries significant impact. If Song Shishing truly starts to doubt me, he will become Chin Xiaoyu's ally. Then I would lose ground on both the emotional and interest fronts. However, Song Shishing did not take the bait. This indicates he hasn't been affected for the time being, but for the time being does not mean forever. I need to do something. It's not about silencing Chin Xiaoyu, but about letting Song Shishing make his own judgment. The next evening, I took a walk with Song Shishing along the river. The evening breeze was cool, and the streetlights stretched the shadows long. After walking for a while, he spoke first. You asked me to invite Xiaoyu to dinner because you wanted to know what she thinks of you. Yeah, did you hear that? I heard it. She said you're like playing chess. She's right. Song Shishing glanced at me. I stopped and turned to him. Song Shishing, I am indeed playing chess. I've been playing chess since I was 3, because if I didn't, others would devour me. Do you mind a chess player? He looked at me, silent for a few seconds. Then have you ever treated me as a chess piece? Yes. His expression changed slightly. Just ask Xiaoyu out for a meal, I said, but this is the first time, and it will also be the last. I won't use this method again in the future, because not everyone on the chessboard can be a pawn. There has to be at least one person sitting on the same side as me. The river breeze blew over, tousling his hair. He reached out to straighten it, then said, what are the conditions for sitting on the same side as you? The condition is that you believe in me. Not because I'm perfect, but because you know me. Do you know yourself? Yes, I'm selfish, cold, and calculating, but I genuinely care about the people I care about." He laughed. "You, even confessing your feelings sounds like a negotiation." "I'm not confessing. Enough," he interrupted me. "I believe you." That night after returning home, I surprisingly didn't think about the matters on the chessboard. Instead, I thought for a while about the expression on Song Shishing's face when he said, "I believe you." It seemed like he truly believed it, not because the evidence was sufficient, not because of a rational judgment after weighing the pros and cons. "It's a letter. I'm not really used to this kind of thing, but I don't dislike it." The results of the anonymous letter investigation came out a week later. The letter was printed at a print shop, paid for in cash, and the surveillance footage was blurry, making it impossible to see the person's face. However, the printing time was on a weekday morning, and according to Chin Xiaoyu's class schedule, she had no classes during that period. It wasn't conclusive evidence, but it was enough to narrow down the direction. I didn't alert anyone prematurely, put this information together with all the previous materials and stored it in the safe. It's not yet time to use it, but it will be soon. The first semester of junior year, Grandpa's health has deteriorated. The doctor said surgery is needed, and the risks are not small. The whole family is on edge. The day before the surgery, Grandpa called Dad and me to his hospital room. "If I don't make it off the operating table, some things need to be arranged in advance." "Dad, don't say things like that. Let me finish." Grandpa's tone left no room for argument. He looked at me. "Nianen, the equity under your name remains unchanged. Additionally, I will have the lawyer draft a supplementary agreement to transfer all the equity I personally hold into the family trust you manage. This means your control over the company will exceed 30%. At the same time, I hope you will complete a comprehensive reform of Gu's media within 5 years. The specific direction is up to you." Dad opened his mouth but ultimately said nothing. He knew that Grandpa's judgment was right. In this family, the one who could shoulder the most responsibility wasn't him, it was his daughter. The surgery was a success. When Grandpa woke up, his first words were, "Where's Nianen?" "Wait outside." "Let her in." I walked into the hospital room and sat by his bedside. Grandpa's hand was dry but warm, holding onto my wrist. "I'm fine, don't worry, Nianen, you will do very well in the future." "I know." He smiled slightly and closed his eyes to rest. I sat by the hospital bed for the entire afternoon. When I walked out of the ward, Chin Xiaoyu was standing at the end of the corridor. She leaned against the wall, arms crossed over her chest, watching me. "Is Grandpa okay?" "He's fine." "What did he say to you?" "Family matters." "What kind of family matter?" I walked up to her and stopped. "You want to know?" "I have the right to know." "You have the right to know things, and your parents will tell you." "What Grandpa told me is what he chose to share with me." Her breath hitched for a moment. "Gu Nianen, do you think you can stay like this forever?" "Like what?" "Step on everyone and stand at the highest place." "I haven't stepped on anyone," I said. "I'm just standing higher than you." Her hands clenched at her sides. "You'll fall sooner or later. Then wait and see." I walked past her without looking back, but I knew that wasn't a threat, it was a declaration of war. Chin Xiaoyu will no longer pretend, she is going to face it head on. After Grandpa was discharged from the hospital, the supplementary agreement was signed. My control over Gu Media has officially exceeded 30%. The news caused quite a stir within the company after it was made public. Third uncle smashed a vase in his office. Gu Wenchuan took sick leave that very day and didn't come to work for a week. The minority shareholders whispered among themselves privately, but no one dared to say anything openly, because this was the old man's decision. The old man's words were like imperial decrees within this family. But Chin Xiaoyu did not remain silent. On the third day after Grandpa was discharged from the hospital, during a family meal, she put down her chopsticks and spoke. "Dad, Grandpa, I have something to say." The whole table fell silent. "I've been in this family for almost 2 years. I've endured what needed to be endured, learned what needed to be learned, and done what needed to be done, but I'm increasingly feeling that no matter what I do, my place in this family won't change. My sister has shares, trusts, and control of the company. She started planning at 12, and now she has everything. And me, even my own room belongs to someone else. The clothes I wear, my phone, my tuition, all given by my parents. I don't have anything that truly belongs to me. I'm not greedy. I don't want 600 million, but I want a fair chance. At least let me prove that I deserve the Gu family name." As she spoke, her gaze swept across everyone's faces. Finally, it settled on me. I put down my chopsticks and met her eyes. Dad looked at me, then at her. Xiaoyu, what kind of opportunity do you want? Let me join the company, not as an intern, but in a formal position. Determine my position based on my abilities and performance, not on. When I returned, if I do well, give me the reward I deserve, if I don't, I'll leave on my own. These words were spoken with resounding force, no emotional appeals, no petty tricks, just a straightforward request. The entire family's gaze was fixed on Dad. Dad thought for a moment and looked at me. Nianan, what do you think? Everyone was looking at me at that moment. I made a decision that took everyone by surprise. Okay, Chen Xiaoyu was clearly taken aback. The condition is that you start from the bottom. Like all new employees, there's a 3-month probation period. You can only become a regular employee after passing the assessment. I'll assign the position. Chen Xiaoyu looked at me, as if trying to judge whether there was any trap in my words. Okay, she said, then it's settled. I picked up the water glass and took a sip. Report to the company next Monday. Gu Wanqing remained silent beside us, but there was clear unease in her eyes. After finishing the meal, she followed me upstairs. Sister, why did you agree? Because if I didn't agree, she would keep causing trouble in other ways, but letting her into the company, isn't that even more dangerous? What do you think a company is? Gu Wanqing did not answer. A company is not a school, nor is it a home. A company is a jungle. In the jungle, being good at giving speeches and writing articles is useless. She wants a fair chance, and I'll give it to her, but a fair outcome may not be what she expects. Gu Wanqing nodded, though not fully understanding. Chen Xiaoyu joined the company. I assigned her to the content review department. This department is the most tedious of all, with daily tasks involving reviewing videos and articles on the platform to check for any inappropriate content. The workload is heavy, repetitive, and offers no room for creativity. However, it is a necessary step for all new employees, including myself. I spent 3 months in this department back in the day. Chen Xiaoyu did not complain. She arrived at work on time every day, left on time, and conscientiously completed each task. Her review speed and accuracy were both above the department's average. A month later, the department supervisor gave her an excellent evaluation. 2 months later, she proactively submitted a proposal to optimize the review process. The content was detailed, well supported by data, and logically clear. The department head brought the proposal to me. Miss, the suggestion put forward by the second young lady does make sense. If implemented, it could improve review efficiency by 20%. I looked over the proposal. Let's give it a trial run. After the proposal was adopted, Chen Xiaoyu's reputation within the company began to improve. The second daughter of the Gu family isn't just for show, much better than that Gu Wenchuan. I heard she came from the countryside. What a talent. I heard all these comments. I didn't rush to do anything. Let her fly for a while first. The higher you fly, the harder you fall. The 3-month probation period has ended. Chen Xiaoyu has passed all assessments and is now officially confirmed in the position. The company held a simple welcome ceremony for her, and a few colleagues from the same department had a meal together. That night when she returned home, a smile lingered at the corner of her mouth. Seeing her happy appearance, her mother was also delighted. Xiaoyu has finally found her footing at the company. Dad nodded. This child really works hard. I sat to the side, eating fruit, not joining the discussion. Gu Wanqing brought out a plate of cut watermelon from the kitchen and placed it in front of me. Sister, eat. Thank you. She sat down beside me and whispered, she's performing so well at the company. Aren't you worried? Worried about what? Worried that she might compete with you in the future. She's already fighting for it. I picked up a piece of watermelon, but fighting is one thing. The outcome may not be what she expects. The company isn't an exam. Exams only look at scores. The company considers much more. What do you mean? Just wait and see. I took a bite of the watermelon, and it was just the right amount of sweet. The second week after Chen Xiaoyu became a full-time employee, the company's annual brand launch event preparations have begun. This is the biggest event of the year for Gu Media, with all partner brands, investors, media, and industry professionals in attendance. Dad is the overall person in charge. I am the executive person in charge. Gu Wenchuan's brand cooperation department is nominally involved in the preparations, but the actual workload is minimal. Chen Xiaoyu's content review department has little to do with this event, but she took the initiative to find me. SS, can I participate in the brand launch event? I can help with content planning. I looked at her. What do you want to do? Opening video. I have an idea that will definitely impress everyone. What idea? She pulled out a proposal. Concise, powerful, and innovative, condensed the 30-year development journey of Goose Media into a 3-minute creative short film, presented in the most popular narrative style of today. After watching it, I admit one thing. This proposal is indeed better than the opening video I originally planned. If I reject it, my reasons won't hold up. If I adopt it, Chen Xiaoyu will steal the spotlight in front of the entire industry. I chose the third path. The plan is good, but a few details need to be revised. After revising, submit it to me, and I'll decide whether to adopt it. What details? I pointed out 3 places. They are all very professional opinions, not intentionally nitpicking. Chen Xiaoyu looked at the places I pointed out and nodded. I'll fix them tonight. The next day, the revised plan was handed to me. It had been improved significantly. However, there were still 2 minor issues. I pointed them out once again. She revised it again. When the third draft was submitted, it was nearly perfect. All right, I nodded. We'll go with your plan, but the execution will be handled by my team. You'll coordinate on site. Okay. She did not compete for the title of overall responsible person. This made me think slightly more highly of her. She is learning when to compete and when to step back. On the day of the brand launch event, over 200 guests were seated in the audience. The opening video played on the large screen, 3 minutes, from the first office of Goose Media to the nationwide media landscape it has become today. The soundtrack, editing, and narrative pacing were all perfectly timed. After the broadcast ended, the audience applauded for nearly half a minute. Dad, sitting in the front row, glanced back at me. I was backstage, giving him a slight nod. Chen Xiaoyu stood beside me, a restrained smile on her face. Thank you, sister, for giving me this opportunity. You earned it yourself. She glanced at me, her smile carrying an added layer of complexity. At the post-launch reception, several investors approached Dad, Mr. Gu, who made the opening video. It was very well done. Dad looked at me, and I gave him a meaningful glance. My second daughter made it, Dad said. The investors turned to Chen Xiaoyu, showering her with praise. The younger generation is formidable. The Gu family has produced many talents in this generation. Chen Xiaoyu handled it very appropriately, neither humble nor arrogant, just right. And I stood not far away. Watching this scene, letting her take the spotlight was something I had planned, because the next segment was my exclusive show. The highlight of the cocktail party was when I announced an important message on behalf of Gu Media. Distinguished guests, Gu Media has completed 3 significant strategic investments this year. The first is the acquisition of a 51% equity stake in Galaxy Data Company, officially entering the data services sector. The second is the establishment of a deep strategic partnership with Song Advertising to jointly build a brand incubation platform. Third, establish the Gu Family Public Welfare Foundation, with an initial investment of 50 million, focusing on rural education and cultural dissemination. The entire audience was in an uproar. Each of the 3 strategies is a major industry-level initiative, and the person announcing these news was not my father, not my grandfather, but a girl who had just turned 20. The investors whispered among themselves, and the reporters' shutters clicked incessantly. Isn't Gu Nianan still in college? Did she lead these investments? I heard she wrote the proposal to acquire Galaxy Data. This girl is terrifying. Chen Xiaoyu stood in the crowd, the smile on her face gradually fading away. The brief moment of attention she gained from the opening video was nothing compared to the 3 strategic announcements I made. Not even a fraction. She served an appetizer, and I brought out the main course she made. Everyone say not bad. I made everyone say unbelievable. This is the difference. After the press conference, Song Shishing waited for me in the parking lot. How long have you been preparing for tonight's announcement? A year. You started planning this in your sophomore year. I started in the 2nd semester of my freshman year. He leaned against the car, looking at me. Do you know what people at the event tonight said about you? What did they say? They said that the future of Gu Media isn't Gu Yanzhou, it's Gu Nianan. I opened the car door. They were right. Song Shishing smiled and helped me close the car door. The aftermath of the press conference lasted for a week. Multiple industry media outlets have reported on Goose Media's 3 strategic investments, with my name appearing in the headlines. 20-year-old Gu Nianan, the youngest helmsman of the media empire, the 3rd-generation successor of Goose Media emerges. These reports have rapidly boosted my visibility within the industry. It also fundamentally changed the layout of the house. Third uncle came to have a talk with Dad. I don't know the specifics, but after the conversation, Third uncle's office in the company was moved from the vice president's office to a regular one. Gu Wenchuan was also transferred from the brand cooperation department to a more marginal position. They backed down not because they admitted defeat, but because the situation no longer allowed them to continue fighting. My capabilities are right there, not relying on connections, not relying on family influence, but on real, tangible achievements. In the face of absolute strength, all schemes appear pale. Chen Xiaoyu remained silent for a long time after the press conference. It's been nearly a month without any action, no fuss, no arguments, no reaching out to people, no posting articles, quietly working in the content review department, going home after work to eat, then returning to the room to read. Unbelievably well behaved. This only made me more alert, because I know her too well. Her silence isn't resignation, it's gathering strength. Sure enough, one night a month later, my phone received a message. It was sent from an anonymous number. There was only one line of text. When Gu Nianan was 3 years old and awake, I have a recorded testimony from Zhou Shilian herself. If you don't want this recording to appear in every news app's push notifications, let's talk tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, west gate of the park. I stared at this message for a full minute, then I picked up my phone and dialed a number. Hello, it's me. Tomorrow night at 8, west gate of the park. I need your people around. Understood. Hung up the phone. I turned off the light and lay down on the bed in the darkness. The corner of my mouth curved slightly. Finally, it's here. She has revealed her final trump card at 7:50 p.m. The next evening, I walked into the park alone. The streetlights at the west entrance flickered on and off, with few people around. 8 o'clock sharp. Chen Xiaoyu emerged from behind a tree. She was wearing a black hoodie, with the hood pulled down low. She was clutching a phone in her hand. You're here. Her tone was surprisingly calm. You asked me to come. Scared. What do you think? She raised her phone. This has Zhou Shilian's recording. She said it herself. That night you were awake, you saw everything, and you didn't stop it. You decided when you were 3 years old to let your own sister be taken away. If this recording is made public, do you think you can still be the eldest daughter of the Gu family? I looked at her. What do you want? I want 15% of Gu Media's equity, plus a vice president position, and joint management rights over the family trust under Grandpa's name. You can give me these. Her tone wasn't like negotiating, it was more like delivering a verdict. I laughed. Xiaoyu, do you know what this is called? I don't care what it's called. I only care about the result. This is called blackmail. My voice was soft. You're using a recording of unknown authenticity to blackmail your own sister. The recording is real. Even if it is real, I took a step forward. Do you think Mom and Dad will take your side after hearing this recording? They'll hate you. Whether they hate me or not is unimportant. What matters is that they will be disappointed in you. Chen Xiaoyu's expression changed. It is indeed cruel for a 3-year-old child to watch helplessly as his sister is taken away, but it is even more cruel for an 18-year-old adult to use a recording to blackmail his own sister for billions in family assets. How do you think public opinion will lean? Her fingers tightened and loosened on her phone. Do you really think you can win just by holding on to this recording? I took another step forward. Let me tell you why you can't win. First, I was indeed awake when I was 3 years old, but the situation at the time was that Zhou Shilian's husband was checking whether I was awake. If I had been exposed, he might have harmed me. A 3-year-old child choosing to pretend to sleep is an instinct for self-preservation. Using this to condemn a 3-year-old child is legally untenable and morally indefensible. Second, the recording in your possession comes from Zhou Shilian, who is currently detained. How did you obtain it? By bribing the guards. That would make you complicit in illegal activity. The legality of the recording itself is questionable, and any media outlet would verify its source before publishing. Once it's discovered that the source is illegal, not only will they refuse to publish it, but they may also turn the tables on you. Third, and most importantly, I paused and looked into her eyes. Even if you release this recording, even if the whole world knows that I watched you being taken away when I was 3 and did nothing to stop it, so what? Do you think Mom and Dad will take the shares from me because of this? They won't, because the shares were given by Grandpa, earned through over a decade of hard work, not handed to me for free. Do you think the people at the company will stop obeying me because of this? They won't. Because what they follow isn't my character, but my ability and performance. Do you think investors will withdraw their funding because of this? Even less likely. They only care about the return on investment. There's only one thing you can hurt, my image in my parents' eyes, but you've forgotten one thing. The image I've built in my parents' hearts over 17 years can't be destroyed by a single recording. They might be sad, they might be disappointed, but they won't deny everything about me because of it. The methods and schemes you revealed while doing this are what will truly make them completely disheartened. Chin Xiaoyu's hands were trembling. You're gambling. Her voice was hoarse. No, I don't gamble, I said. I never gamble, I only do things I'm sure of. Do you believe it or not? I already obtained a backup of the original file of that recording on your phone 2 weeks ago. Her face suddenly changed. Impossible. My investigation team got in touch with Zhou Xuelian before you did. Anyone you can bribe, I can too, and I was one step ahead of you. Every word Zhou Xuelian said to you was simultaneously transmitted to me, including her telling you that the eldest daughter was awake that night. That was also said under my instruction. Chin Xiaoyu's phone nearly slipped from her hand. You did it on purpose. I intentionally let her tell you about this, because I knew you would definitely use it to make a fuss. I need you to show your hand. Only when you show your hand can I solve all the problems at once. Her body swayed slightly. What a grand scheme you've laid out. I've been setting it up since the day you returned. I reached out my hand. Give me the phone. She looked at my hand for a long time, then, slowly and bit by bit, she handed the phone over. I took the phone, deleted the recording file, and then returned it to her. Xiaoyu, you're not my match, not because you're not smart, but because you're too impatient. You're in a hurry to prove yourself, in a hurry to reclaim what you believe is yours, in a hurry to win. But you've forgotten that in this family, winning isn't about how rushed you are, it's about how steady you are. I've been steady for 17 years. What about you? Chin Xiaoyu stood under the streetlight, her expression shattered. It wasn't anger, nor was it resentment, it was a deep weariness. Gu Nianan, what exactly do you want? I want you to be content with being my sister. In this family, you have your place, your duties, and your life, but the inheritance is mine. There is no room for negotiation on this. If you can accept that, we can be good sisters for a lifetime. If you cannot accept it, I paused for a moment, then you may leave. I will not stop you, nor will I treat you unfairly. The compensation you deserve will not be a penny short, but from today on, don't use any more tricks on me, because for every trick you use, I've already prepared a countermeasure. The wind in the park rustled through the treetops. Chin Xiaoyu stood in place, not saying a word. Her tears fell silently. I turned and walked away. As I left the park, Song Shishing's car was parked by the roadside. He rolled down the window and looked at me. Is it over? It's over. How is she? She will make the right choice. I got into the car. As the car started, I glanced in the rearview mirror toward the direction of the park. Under the streetlight, Chin Xiaoyu's figure was still there, small and very lonely. For a moment, my heart softened, but only for a moment. The next morning, at breakfast, Chin Xiaoyu sat at the dining table. Her eyes were a bit red and swollen, but her expression was calm. Mom asked if she hadn't slept well. She smiled. I had a dream. Halfway through the meal, she put down her chopsticks and looked at me. Sister, I've been thinking about what you said all night. The eyes of everyone at the table turned toward them. I've decided to stay. Her voice was steady. No more arguing. Mom was taken aback, not quite understanding what she meant. Dad glanced at me, seeming to understand everything. Gu Wanqing also put down her chopsticks, looking at Chin Xiaoyu in disbelief. Xiaoyu, you, Wanqing. Chin Xiaoyu turned to look at her. I've been too harsh on you during this time. The post on the forum was made by me. Wearing old clothes during the speech was intentional, and that incident during the New Year's Eve dinner, I'm sorry. Gu Wanqing opened her mouth, her eyes reddening. Mom's eyes also welled up with tears. Dad put down his chopsticks and sighed. We're all family, let bygones be bygones. I took a sip of porridge and said nothing. The most brilliant part of this drama wasn't Chin Xiaoyu's apology, but the way she apologized, in front of the whole family. She took the initiative, straightforwardly, leaving no room for doubt. This shows she has truly come to terms with it. It also shows she knows that playing tricks in front of me is useless. From that day on, Chin Xiaoyu settled down. True contentment is not just superficial tranquility. She works diligently at the company and no longer brings up matters of equity or inheritance. Her relationship with Gu Wanqing has also improved significantly, and they occasionally have meals and chat together. She even proactively helps Gu Wanqing with her studies, teaching her how to write project proposals. Wanqing, your thinking is on the right track, but your expression needs to be more concise. Merge these 3 paragraphs into one and remove any unnecessary modifiers. Gu Wanqing listened attentively, nodding frequently. The two sisters, who once viewed each other with hostility, gradually became allies to some extent. This outcome is beyond my expectations, but it's not a bad thing. If they get along well, it actually makes things easier for me, because they both know who sets the rules in this household. In my senior year, Goose Media's annual revenue exceeded 15 billion. The assets managed by my personal investment company also surpassed 200 million, and that frail girl who transferred from the suburbs has grown into the head of the company's content center. She manages a team of 20 people, producing content each month that reaches tens of millions of users. Across all platforms, she proved herself in her own way, not by fighting, making a fuss, or threatening, but by getting things done. I did not deliberately suppress her, nor did I specifically promote her. Her position is one she has earned step by step. On the day of the university graduation ceremony, the whole family came: dad, mom, grandpa, third uncle, Gu Wenchuan, Gu Wanqing, Chen Xiaoyu, even Song Shishing came. He sat in the last row of the parents' seats, wearing a white shirt, and waved at me. With a smile, I delivered the speech on behalf of the graduates. Standing on the stage, I looked at all the faces in the audience. I remembered many things. I remembered myself at 3 years old, closing my eyes in a dark room. I remembered myself in my previous life, sitting in a wheelchair for 20 years. I remembered the sound of the wind rushing past my ears as I fell from the rooftop, thinking of the judge's kick. Then I spoke. 4 years ago, standing at the entrance of this school, I had only one thought in mind: I want to win. Win what? Win everything I can win. 4 years later, I still want to win, but I have one more thought than I did 4 years ago. After winning, I still have to stand firm. The applause from the audience was like a tidal wave. After the graduation ceremony, the whole family had a meal at a hotel. The atmosphere was more relaxed than ever. Third uncle clinked glasses with me. Nianan, I'll leave the company in your hands from now on. When he said this, his tone was sincere, because he had finally come to terms with reality. Gu Wenchuan also stood up and toasted me. Cousin, I'm impressed. Chen Xiaoyu sat across from me, raising her glass in my direction. She didn't speak, but she smiled. That smile held no resentment, no scheming, no undercurrents. It was simply a younger sister's smile for her older sister, simple and pure. Gu Wanqing sat beside me, quietly eating her meal all along. At the end of the meal, she leaned close to my ear and said something. Sister, thank you for not giving up on me all these years. I glanced at her. You are my sister, although not by blood. Blood relation doesn't matter, I said, just be obedient. She smiled. Song Shishing watched our table from the far end of the dining table. He didn't interrupt, just watched quietly. When the gathering ended after the meal, he walked over. Let's go, I'll take you back. Okay. The night breeze was gentle as we stepped out of the hotel. The streetlights stretched our two shadows long. He suddenly asked, what are your plans for the future? Take over Gu Media, achieve an annual revenue of 30 billion, and then let this Gu family last for another 100 years, and after that, I thought for a moment, marriage. He laughed out loud. With whom? Depends on my mood. He reached out and took hold of my finger. Then where do I rank? First. Without a second thought. Exactly. Under the streetlight, his smile was quite charming. I grasped his hand. After 20 years of chess games, it was finally time for the endgame. 5 years later, Gu Media's annual revenue exceeded 30 billion, with its market value ranking among the top 3 in the national media industry. Gu Nianan, 25 years old, chairman of Gu Media Group. Assets under my name include an investment company, 2 subsidiaries, a luxury apartment occupying an entire floor in the city center, and a Maybach I bought myself. I drove this car back to the Gu family's old house and parked it on the driveway at the entrance. Compared to that morning over 20 years ago when my mother held me and woke up in this house, everything has changed, yet nothing has changed. The old house is still the old house. I am still me, only that 3-year-old girl who used to pretend to sleep with her eyes closed has now become the head of this family. When I pushed the door open, the living room was full of people. Mom and Dad were sitting on the sofa, drinking tea. Grandpa sat in the armchair basking in the sun, looking much more energetic than in previous years. Gu Wanqing, wearing an apron, brought out a dish from the kitchen. She is now in charge of the lifestyle brand line under Gu Media, and she has been thriving in her role, having learned everything step by step on her own. Although her talent is average, she excels in being reliable and never makes mistakes. Chen Xiaoyu stood by the floor-to-ceiling window making a phone call, dressed in a sharp suit, speaking quickly while holding a pen and jotting things down in a notebook. She is now the president of the content business group at GU Media, overseeing 3 business divisions with over 400 people under her leadership. Last year, the short video platform revamp project she spearheaded directly drove a 12% increase in the group's overall revenue. At the board meeting, even the most difficult-to-please senior shareholders gave her a thumbs up. She hung up the phone, turned around, saw me, and smiled. "Sis, you're back. Yeah, what's for dinner tonight? Did Wanqing make it?" "Braised pork ribs, your favorite." Gu Wanqing poked her head out from the kitchen. "Don't rush, it'll be ready soon." Chen Xiaoyu walked over and naturally linked her arm with mine. "Sis, I've drafted a preliminary version of the keynote speech for next week's industry summit. Could you take a look? Leave it on my desk, alright?" She let go of my arm and ran to help Gu Wanqing serve the dishes. I stood in the middle of the living room, looking at all the people in the room. Grandpa was teasing his parrot to speak, muttering, make a fortune, make a fortune." Dad was discussing with Mom where to go on vacation next week. The 2 sisters were in the kitchen, one stir-frying and the other plating, occasionally bickering before bursting into laughter. Uncle retired from the company 2 years ago and moved to Hainan to enjoy his retirement with his dividends. Before leaving, he shared a drink with me, saying, "You're even tougher than your grandfather," and clinked glasses with a smile. Gu Wenchuan went abroad and started his own cross-border e-commerce business. Last month, he posted a photo of his new office on social media, and it seems he's doing quite well. Zhou Shilian's matter was settled long ago. She started a new life in a remote small town, and no one has come looking for her since. Chindahai remains missing to this day, and no one wants to find him. Those who were meant to leave have left, those who were meant to stay have stayed. The doorbell rang. The butler went to open the door. Song Shishing stood outside the door, holding a bag in his hand. "I'm late, there was a traffic jam on the way." He handed the bag to the butler. "This is Longjing tea for Grandpa, fresh from this year." Grandpa called from inside. "Is Shishing here? Come on in and have a seat." Song Shishing changed his shoes and walked into the living room, first greeting Grandpa, then saying hello to his parents. Then he walked up to me. "Why are you back so early today?" "I just felt like coming back, so I did." He smiled and sat down beside me. "We got married last year, holding the wedding in the garden of the old house, inviting only close relatives and a few friends. There was no grand ceremony, no extravagance, just a meal shared with family. At the wedding, Grandpa said, 'The best thing I've ever done in my life is to live long enough to see Nianan get married.'" The whole table laughed at that moment. I didn't laugh, because I knew Grandpa wasn't just talking about the wedding. He said that he had personally witnessed the Gu family's future being secure. During the meal, my mother suddenly sighed with emotion. Nianan was especially well-behaved as a child. By the age of 3, she could already help her younger sister burp and change diapers. The housekeeper said they had never seen such a sensible child. Chen Xiaoyu chimed in from the side. "My sister has always been amazing since she was little. We can't compare." Gu Wanqing also nodded along. "Sister has always been our backbone." Mom smiled as she looked at the 3 of us. "As long as you 3 sisters can be like this, your father and I have no regrets." I picked up a piece of spare ribs and put it in my mouth. The taste is excellent. Gu Wanqing's cooking skills are getting better and better. After the meal, I walked alone to the balcony on the 2nd floor. It was already dark, and in the distance were the myriad lights of the city. Song Shishing followed and stood beside me. "What are you thinking about?" "Nothing. Every time you say nothing, you're actually thinking a lot." I lean against the railing, gazing into the distance. If I hadn't closed my eyes back then, would everything be different? He thought for a moment. "Yes. What will happen? You might stop Zhou Shilian, save your sister, and then be pushed down the stairs, just like in the previous life. Then sit in a wheelchair for 20 years, and finally get pushed off the rooftop. So closing your eyes was the right thing to do." I smiled. I don't know if it was right. "I only know that I survived, and living very well," he said, "and living very well," I repeated. Downstairs came the sound of Chen Xiaoyu and Gu Wanqing's laughter and chatter. It seemed they were arguing over the remote control. Mom was trying to mediate the argument, Dad was egging them on, and Grandpa was shouting, "Stop fighting, let me watch my Peking opera." It was lively and bustling, just like any ordinary evening. Song Shishing took hold of my hand. I didn't turn to look at him, just clenched tighter. The wind blew from the direction of the city, carrying the chill of late autumn. I stood on the 2nd floor balcony of the Gu family's old house, looking down at the city beneath my feet, feeling very calm. 22 years ago, I reopened my eyes on a pink bed and decided to close them again. 22 years later, I stand here with my eyes wide open, seeing everything clearly. What is mine? Not a single thing is missing. What I shouldn't worry about, I haven't meddled with that. Someone once asked me what the greatest realization was from living a second life. I said, in my past life, I risked my life to save others, only to end up in a wheelchair and on a rooftop. This life, I only save myself, and as it turns out, everyone is doing just fine. After hearing this story, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your ideas in the comments section. I look forward to hearing your voice.